send I'll be
Okay,
fucking
yeah, okay.
dead.
Just fucking send it.
Oh, fucking
Come on, come on.
Oh, we actually got it.
So dead.
Oh,
It's so dead.
That's fucking
holy shit.
yes!
It didn't take me off the edge that time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, you can't have that in the kill mod. What the?
Bro, we fucking man. Thank fuck, man.
Welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 282. Today is June 3rd, 2023, and we are going to be talking about the World Race. And basically, this is our post-show. We're bringing on two amazing teams. If you guys are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community, discussing everything from Savage trading to Chocobo racing. But first, let me go ahead and have the two teams introduce themselves. From Neverland, we have Narrlocke. You were on last week, dude. Could you tell everybody who you are?
I'm Narrlocke, and I'm back from last week.
Nice, nice. What role do you play in your team?
This time I'm tank, but usually it changes every 2 or 3 months, depending on who is or isn't leaving.
Okay.
I think I was healer first, and then I was caster for like maybe 3 weeks, and then I was a tank, and then we thought about changing it again, and then I went back.
So you're just the flex.
Yeah,
Got
a bit of everything.
Got it. All right. We also have Rumi. Can you tell everybody who you are?
Hello, I'm Rumi. I used to go by the name of Chayo for a long time, and I've been the ninth man for Neverland ever since DSR, which has been quite a while at this point, actually.
It has been over a year. Now that I think about it. Jeez. All right. We also got Suki.
Hello, I'm Suki. I used to be known as Moogie Woogie. I'm the Astro, formerly caster, and I kicked Mara off healer, and I took healer.
Nice, nice.
God bless.
We also brought on Aether Group 3, aka Angered Group 3, because I can't speak properly half the time. Aura, can you tell everybody who you are?
Hey, I'm Ara, and I play Astro for Aether Group 3.
Nice. And then we got Chayo.
Hi, I'm Chayo. I used to be the caster, but now I'm with his ranged.
Okay. And then Layla.
I'm Layla. I play Genshin for AG3.
Nice, nice, nice. I thought you were retired.
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, I haven't even been around for the last 2 months, but I'm just here as a spokesperson because they wanted me to be.
Okay, that works. Jeez. Thanks, guys, for coming on today. It's, I was able to get some sleep. I feel a little bit more mentally sound than the last time that, I spoke with, you guys, Neverland. So, hopefully we could have a little bit more of a thoughtful conversation. And we were doing that stuff with production. I don't know, how weird was that interview timing-wise, because I know there was some level of delay. Was it okay, or was that a little bit odd?
For us, it was fine. Maybe on the stream was slightly delayed.
It was
There's some points where I noticed it.
it was like maybe 4 seconds delay, I want to say.
4 seconds!
Yeah, I remember pretty
You guys said it
clearly.
was like half a second when I said
Well, no, but the delay with Frosty talking in his
No,
video
that's
was like
two
half a
different
second.
things. He was asking about his delay from his microphone to his camera. We're
Yeah.
talking about the delay from us to the casters.
To the castles, yeah, because there were some points where like people were talking and like it like got covered by the other people.
Yeah. I gotta figure out a better way for that. Our production threw that together like last second to try to figure out how to make that work. But anyways, since then, I'm sure you guys have had some time to kind of soak up the raid tier and the race and everything else. I mean, now that that has happened, I guess I'll ask all the open floor for everybody here. do you guys think that this was a good tier to end Walker on?
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Yeah?
I was
think
a
it
big
was
fan
pretty
as well.
Best
Definitely
one
my
of the
favorite one.
expansion for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So best in the
ended with a bang.
expansion, but not best in the game, of course, right?
No.
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 Okay.
It's pretty good. I think
it's
it's pretty
up
up there,
there.
but
It's definitely
it's
up
not
there.
best. Yeah.
Yeah, it's solid.
Okay.
I'm
can
gonna say
argue
it
it's one
right
of the
away.
best.
I think what it's lacking the most is a DPS check in the final turn.
Yeah.
Like it was a little bit too easy, really. That you could clear with like multiple devs and not even optimize like
Yeah.
Yeah.
gear and buff timing and stuff. Like you could
was a
get away
trade-off.
with a lot.
They added more. It was more mechanical heavy, puzzle heavy this time around.
Yeah, the mechanics were pretty
Oh.
nice. Though.
It was like a trade-off, I guess. Mechanics versus DPS check.
It
I
could have
mean-
been a bit tighter for the last tier.
We kind of talked about this the other day, but I mean, this is a lot of these mechanics typically in these Savage end bosses recently probably wouldn't have been uptime mechanics, and now they're having to juggle the fact that they're giving you uptime with brain mechanics, and they probably put the leniency a little bit too high, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So
I don't know.
wanted to
Some people
talk
don't
about that
really.
too.
Some people don't really see it as a negative. Like I know when I talked to Zeph about it, like he's a fan of it. I'm probably less a fan of it, but yeah.
What were we saying, Nar?
I was saying I actually wanted to bring that up at some point too. I was gonna ask that later.
Yeah, you can ask it
How
now.
everyone. I just wanted to say two things. One, I really like that the bosses were basically full uptime the whole time. There was only like maybe 2 times the whole tier the boss actually went away. I think it's really lame when the boss just like goes untargetable every time he does like a hard mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing I was going to say is I think that the easy DPS check is related to that, because when they have these hard mechanics with full uptime that people actually like have to run away for, like actually have to,
Mhm.
they can't balance around people being good enough to actually keep hitting the boss during these mechanics, or else PF would never be able to kill the boss. Like, I was curious how other people felt about that.
You mean in the terms of tuning it towards making it clearable in Party Finder?
Yeah, but that, and just the fact that I think it's very related to the boss being full uptime, despite the fact that it makes you run away.
I still think it was a little bit too lenient, given the fact that the boss's hitbox is the size of Jupiter and like takes up probably 2/3 of the arena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I
Like.
mean, it's. Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say
I
it's
said my
something
point.
that Square Enix does a lot. That like they make a hard DPS set and they overcorrect the next tier. Like they didn't Shiva, right? Shiva was hard, and then E12S was really easy. And then again with this, Pietas was hard, and then they overcorrected and made the next fight really easy. It's like
I
it's hard
think-
for them to get that perfect tuning.
I think they got Colby after Abyssos.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dial it back a bit. But I do agree
Yeah,
that there's
that's
a
the
lot more.
overcorrection. Yeah, they definitely they just overcorrected.
Yeah.
Like we got to dial it back, but they just went way far back. I
Down
think.
back too much.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, we could say they overcorrected at least within the DPS side, but the mechanic side, they did pretty well overall.
For sure.
Or at least that's what it seems like.
Thank you for no codex mechanic.
Yes.
No
No
fire
feeling
block.
stuff. Oh yes.
Hmm. Man, yeah. Go ahead.
So, like I think most world prog teams do not like these hidden codex mechanics where like they tell you nothing. It's just like do this random thing and now you can continue.
Do
Well,
the
I'm
mechanic
not a fan of
wrong
those.
on purpose.
Yeah, like do the mechanic wrong on purpose. Not
That's
a fan
like,
of
what?
that stuff.
Okay, all right. So, I guess that sucks for you. I don't have to worry about that, right? Because you guys figure it out for me. But yeah, is that just not fun for you guys? I know the whole point is like to figure out the puzzle and everything else and try to get all this. What the fuck is Zep doing in chat if he's not going to be on the call?
Listen, Diablo 4 just came out.
Yeah, he's playing Diablo 4.
Yeah, I'm playing Diablo 4 right now.
I mean, yeah, seriously, multitask. God. All right, sorry. Anyways, we don't have to worry about what he said. He's not on the show. The thing is, I think that the I don't know. Finding those is fun in a way, but at the same time, I'm not having to do it. So I'm wondering from your side, the whole reason you guys race, most racers at least, is so that they can go through and see how fast they can solve the puzzle. But that's the codex type mechanics are just not a fun type of solve for, I'm guessing, all of you, right?
So there's like a so you could kind of construe the ad phase in the door boss as a kind of puzzle in the sense that you have this set of data and you have to figure out how these ad works and how these things go together, right? But codex type puzzles are different in the sense that you do this mechanic and then you get to some wall later where it's like, haha, there's actually a secret. Go back and figure it out. And now you have all these mechanics that you've already done and no idea where to start. So you just have to start randomly mashing things together for hours until something just happens. Like, it's much more frustrating.
Yeah,
It's very
like,
frustrating in the moment.
it's like
Up.
gated behind a
PTSD.
huge trial and error phase that you just have to do it over and over and over again until you find something that actually works. It's just not fun, honestly.
I mean, it could result in someone clearing an ultimate, like, I guess, like 3 or 4 days before anyone else, too, right?
Exactly what's gonna happen. Yeah, there's something like this that no one else can figure it out. One team figures it out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how bad that team plays; they're gonna win because they figured out the hidden mechanic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall though, DPS dialed back, but you guys would say the mechanics were at least interesting to work with and solve and everything. Let's go back to, I guess some of the first fight and kind of go through it a little bit because we did talk about just in general overall. P9S. What's everyone's initial thoughts on that? If you guys remember it.
There's only one thing to remember: the whole fight is pretty much 3 mechanics plus one big one in the middle, I guess, and one big one at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a fan of that big mechanic. It was a very fun one to figure out. It's like the first time they had like a puzzly mechanic in the first turn, I feel like. So it was a good first turn, I think, in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot too. It's like, like I said, the mechanics in between are like pretty simple, but I also think simple can be fun too. And I think that fight is simple and fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think for a first turn, it's like what it should be, honestly. Like a lot of small mechanics, stuff that you're used to, spread, stacks, whatever, and in between, like 1 or 2 big ones. I think it's good.
It's like the first time I really like saw the team like stop and just have to think about a mechanic on the first turn instead of just chain pulling it. Because I actually had to take a bit to like look through the limit cut and stuff to figure it out. Otherwise, the first turn in Abyssals, I remember we just chain pulled until it died.
Because the thing about the filler mechanics is they're very simple, but like they're all body checks. So if you can't figure out the kickball limit cut, then even if you get through it by zombieing, you're just gonna die to dual spell or whatever stacked spread.
I thought most teams zombied through that, and that's how they got the clear.
The first limit cut you can't zombie through because he doesn't do a mechanic for like another 30 seconds or something like that, so you can
Right.
res everyone up that died. But
Yeah.
this limit cut, they give you a lot of time to regroup
Got
before
it.
he actually does anything.
Yeah. I mean, and I hope my personal experience so far is Party Finder's definitely still having a lot of trouble with it. Do you know what strategies Party Finder's doing for that limit cut?
I've done a little
See-
bit of Party Finder, and I've done with JP Strat, and it looked pretty easy to me. But it, like in execution, it's awful.
It's
At least in Party Finder.
it's really not that bad. So the I guess Oppo Cryal strat is pretty straightforward. It kind of makes sense, kind of rotating around. But the JP one, you just have to take your mind away from it being 2 separate groups of people with numbers and people without numbers, and just being one group. And then whatever this thing comes up, you have to go do it.
Yeah.
But I think it reminded me of the tower mechanic in top a little bit, right? Because if you get a number, you have to do a tower, and you have to do a tether in top. In this one, you have to bait a explosion, and you have to go collect a tower at the same time. You have to figure out which one and which order to do it. Did it remind you of you guys of that, or is that just me being crazy?
You actually check out prog one. I immediately said this is exactly like DSR phase 1. Top phase 1. I straight up said as soon as you saw the mechanic, like second time, like this is top phase 1.
Did I steal that idea from you?
I don't know, maybe it was like one of the first things I said. The 6 takes 2 is like alternating, right? One person gets tower, one person gets the mechanic,
Yeah.
then you alternate.
Yeah.
I just pray I don't get a number because the people who do the blue circles are just like brain AFK.
Mhm.
There's no responsibility there.
Yeah.
In our strat, they just ran around in the circle the whole time, and if you got a blue thing, you stop. That's it.
Oh, if you have a, so you just circled around. If you have blue, you stop.
You start
Yeah,
at the 1
basically.
orb. All 4
Yeah.
people with no number start at 1.
Mm-hmm.
You look where 3 is, and if you get a marker, you stand still, and the other 3 keep going. It's just Mario Kart.
So,
Yeah, that's
So
the
weird.
opposite
Exactly what we
strat.
did. That's
Yeah.
100% identical to what we did.
Yeah. That's the one Party Finder is using right now. That or the JP strat. And that's pretty interesting. I think it's outside of that though. It's really what you guys said, the in and out and then dodging the cracks, I guess, right? Did you guys have any trouble finding the safe spots with the cracks, or was it pretty easy for you?
No, I mean you can just look at the ground of the arena. It's pretty easy to tell this way. You mean like for the in and out, right?
Dodge is
Yeah,
pretty.
during the in and out.
Dodge is really easy. It's just they always try to bait you. Like they try to bait you into doing something else before you dodge. But it's always dodge first, then do whatever is coming up.
Dollar store Ruby weapon.
We
Go ahead.
practiced that specifically before prog in the normal mode. That was like one of our things that we theory crafted and practiced on. So our group never had an issue with it. I don't think.
Nice. Party Finders having issues with it. But I kind of think that mechanics is built for that level of raider, right? To be a challenge for the players that are kind of just queuing in the Party Finder and everything and taking it a little bit more casually, because that's just a fun challenge for people who haven't just aced that mechanic and I guess worked their ass off while doing normal mode. What else in normal mode for that fight helped you guys out?
speed running it, right?
Yeah, we did like 3 runs of it to figure out which job was good. Also, we spent a lot of time theory crafting specifically the first 2 fights and didn't really spend any time on the 3rd and the 4th one because like obviously those are usually going to be so different anyway that it's pointless. And also the 3rd fight was like really obvious and there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
We thought like what other elements the mage could do, and I remember I think we thought that that if there was a thunder it would be a cross. We thought there might be winds too.
Mm-hmm.
But so like that's why we already had our diagonals and stuff set up for the thunders, assuming it was going to be a cross because then it would be the exact same as Celestiad, like from Kefka. You know, ice donut fire on people in corners and there's a thunder. But I mean, it ended up working out anyway, even though it wasn't exactly that.
We actually thought the fire would work like a 09S, where when he transforms to mage, tanks and healers would go out first into cards, and then DPS. It was completely different, so we were wrong about that.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
we
right.
already planned like where to position fires, so that was like nothing to talk about. We're like, okay, this is pairs, everyone knows where to go, just go. Didn't have to talk about that at all.
We actually thought, like Suki said, we thought it was gonna be 4 people out and 4 people in. Because if you put the fire right on the edge of the ice, there's like a little tiny safe spot in the middle where they all barely don't reach. We thought maybe that would be it, but.
All right. Okay. Any other thoughts on that first fight?
Surprised we didn't see a variation of the Holminster first, like final boss mechanic. He does like the 2 tank busters and jumps in the middle in normal mode. I don't think he had like a variation of that on Savage. Not sure how they would even do that. The whole beast phase was just the meteors, really.
Was there even a proximity marker? I just realized. Was there?
No.
Not at all, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
this.
the deck, and the last mechanic is proximity. That's not a proximity marker, though. Like it's something completely else.
Did he do the like jump on both tanks thing?
No.
Oh,
He only did the like fire and wind thing.
The fire went, yeah.
Oh, I barely even remember.
Typical first fight, but at least you remember something in it. So overall, I mean, it was a good initial fight to start off with, I suppose, and I think difficulty-wise, it's probably where it needs to be. Just one mechanic to figure out, really.
Was this like the first time a first turn took more than lockout for literally everybody?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the first time, But we still, I mean, I can go get the graphs out, man. But it's so hard to like use those graphs too with the mixture of normal mode.
Normal.
Yeah, it makes it kind of difficult to look at because this only happened during Abyssos. I mean, you could look at the first tier, but
It's did anyone do Cloud of Darkness in one lockout? I feel like that's probably one of the most hardest recent first turns.
Mm,
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Either.
I don't even remember who got first in that.
I feel like if this boss took a lockout, I feel like Cloud of Darkness must have also taken a lockout. I feel like that boss is a lot harder than this one.
I should know this because I think I got first, but I don't remember.
I think we can check it easily.
Which one was that? That was
E9S.
E9S. Alright, sort by time on E9S. I mean, I don't, because there's a lot of JP teams without clear times. But I have thoughts per second getting it 2 hours and 30 minutes after servers came up, given an hour for normal mode, or less than an hour for normal mode.
Oh yeah, that's less than a lockout for sure.
Well, no,
About a
lockout's
lockout?
90 minutes, so like,
90, yeah.
so
it's about a lockout.
it's a little bit over one lockout, I think, unless if they were just really slow and normal. But yeah, it happened 2:34 after servers came up.
That sounds like a 2 lockout fight.
Probably 2 like it's yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Then entropy right after by 5 minutes, so 1 pull difference. Okay. Then we go on to P10S, which was the one I think a lot of people were excited for. Did it live up to your expectations at all?
For me, it did.
I think so, yeah. It had all the cool stuff that we thought it was going to have, I think.
How'd you guys
I
feel
think it's-
getting yeeted off? The tanks being yeeted off?
During that part where the tank buster tower.
Yeah, the tank
Yeah.
towers. Yeah.
That was cool. That does not look like it throws you in the air. I don't know why it does.
There's no tilt, there's no anything. It's just you bounce in the air. I don't understand why.
Definitely was unique to add that
a
knockback.
little
thing.
out there. The big thing that I think surprised me is like it was all like kind of what people thought it was going to be, I think, but I was a little surprised how like aggressively they make you run across the room and then stack and then spread, or spread and then stack, or do a different stack and then a different spread, like back to back, like every 60 seconds it feels like.
Demonic, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of that.
the towers when coming back is quite spooky. Like have to come back into your towers.
Hmm.
I mean specifically the like the debuff where it looks like he's like glaring at you and it's like 1 or 2
Yeah,
or 4.
that too.
That was a lot of that.
What was the
alright.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think 10 for me was just watching it. I think it was the best fight at the tier.
Really?
But yeah,
Okay.
maybe you could argue dual boss, but
Hmm. Ara, Chayo, Layla?
I think it was decent. Probably not the best fight of a tier though.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What about most unique? Would you
yeah,
agree
that's
on that?
kind of
Yeah,
what I
Yeah,
mean.
sure.
that's true. That's true.
That's why I think it's the best, because it's the most unique.
I think we all got a laugh out of tanks getting yeeted.
Yeah.
Good.
I was actually surprised how much damage Harrowing Hell did.
Like, I appreciate that they got a little creative with the arena. They don't do that enough. Like incorporating it as like a key mechanic of the fight. I thought that was appreciative of that.
Mm-hmm.
That fight is why they made the all the buffs like 30 yalms to 40 or whatever all those buffs.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was like, yeah, that's exactly why. And I think last time we were talking about it on the show, we were like, even some of those buffs don't hit the other side, right? You still have to like try to aim and hit the members that are across the arena because of how far away it is. And something about it being like one of the biggest arenas in the game, technically, because of the most distance you can be from one corner to the next. But I don't know.
I mean, to me, every arena that isn't a square or a circle is a win.
Okay. So
or
you
a
got
rectangle.
two. Well, I mean,
I'll even take rectangles at this point. Come on, just
yeah. Okay. Okay. Is there anything else like really interesting? Did you guys struggle on any part of the fight?
There's this part where there's 8 heads in the room, and they shoot laser beams that knock you back. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Me and Death really had a hard time with the last set of heads that the tanks have to soak by themselves. One of the heads would just like, they would both just stare at the same tank no matter like where we ran and shoot us to death all the time. We struggle with that. It's like really weird.
Okay. AG3?
Did you guys have that same issue?
Yeah,
no,
like-
we are. I think in our case, with tanks, we were kind of slow sometimes. Like sometimes they had to run a big distance to get to their heads, and that was sometimes an issue. But I don't know. I can't really speak for them.
The heads
Alright.
lock in pretty quick.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that was the thing.
It's rough, yeah.
Here's a-
People started shooting diagonally now to
Yeah.
that. That's definitely the way to go.
Oh, is that a thing people do?
Yeah, at the third set they shoot diagonally so that the tanks land straight in front of their last set instead of having to run across.
Makes sense.
If you run across, it's like very likely that one of the tanks just gets blown up and dies because they both snapped onto the same guy, right?
Think what else in that fight? The person who breaks the webs get this really nasty dot. And there's a part in the fight where DPS and supports are split. And the DPS who has to break the web over there on that side, like, staring at him like, okay, when we meet up, I gotta spam this guy because he's just gonna bleed out.
I macro just for the DPS on that side. Yeah,
Yeah.
I put a macro. I was like, just insta pop, heal that person. I don't want to think about it. There's no running across.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, R-bitch, the harrowing hell damage. I am surprised that's on a second turn fight. Like PF probably tank LBs that, right?
I think they can.
No way PF gets through that without tank LB.
No way they do that without tank LB.
They kind of overtuned that damage, I think.
I think it's intended to be a tank LB.
No, I don't know about that.
It's just. I
Tank
think
LB
it's
doesn't even
intended,
catch
but
all of it.
you can. Yeah, that's the weird part too. It doesn't even catch all of it.
I think
but,
it's
like,
after the
so
third
much
hit you tank
damage.
LB.
Yeah.
It could be intended for like that's what they expect people to do.
I think it's intended that you tank LB, but it's
That
just
would be
too much.
weird.
It's like even in BIS, no way a party finder I think coordinates their mitts like well enough to live that.
You know, I just thinking about it more. I can't think of too many times that they made spots where it was a useful option to tank LB, and it's usually to use the cheese mechanics, right? Like in P6.
Yeah, like P6. Yeah,
Yeah.
P6. Yep.
But I guess it would make sense if they make really hard mitigation spots, and they're like, well, tank LB is a good solution for it. But I mean, it's better than having to just use DPS LB all the time and healer
Maybe-
LB to zombie. But I mean, technically, healer LB3 is like really strong this tier. So,
Yeah.
Maybe they saw P6 people tank being, and they were like, "Oh, you guys like tank being? Here you go. Just use it in the second turn again."
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, the LBs have a lot more use, and so the DPS LB is not nearly as useful as it was, but I feel like they're all kind of becoming just as important, because usually when you have tight DPS checks, if anyone dies, you're never going to use a healer LB or anything else during that fight. You're just going to use the DPS LB if there's a tight DPS check, right? And that's kind of what I guess P8S turned into. So I don't know. That's a curious thought. I'll have to add it to my list of questions to Yoshida if I ever get an interview again.
If you're supposed to tank LB harrowing hell.
Yeah, I'll ask exactly that. Or just if
I don't know if that's his job is to know the specifics of things like that. He might not know.
Oh, he should
I
know.
wonder how
There's the fight.
He knows.
I wonder how they did the testing on that. Like, did they just like not notice it was hitting that hard in the testing?
I do think it's tank LB. It's like UCOB thing. You can mitigate it. The when UCOB appears behind it.
the
but
second
you can-
one.
Oh, there's a
can-
second one. You're
the
right.
second one is the enrage. You're supposed
Well,
to.
yeah,
Second
you can
rage.
still,
That might
you
be
can
a
still
soft
work
rage.
with
Yeah,
it for a
if it's a
while.
soft rage.
Sure, but like then.
It's supposed to kill you. That last
Yeah,
one's
but not
supposed to kill you.
instantly.
Well, you don't die instantly. You
everyone
die after
falls
he
off
beats
and
your
the
ass
tanks
for like
live
6
or something.
seconds.
Sure, but
Well,
And then
more
if you
specifically,
somehow live, he knocks you off.
more specifically, I would ask him, hey, are you in the way you design fights? Are you designing in a way where LBs are useful outside of the DPS LB? And I would.
I mean, the problem with like designing a fight around a DPS LB is like, where are you going to do that? It's just going to be in like some sort of HP shield that you have to burn, which is just kind of a boring binary. Do you have the LB? Do you not? Or it's just going to be like I don't know, killing an ad or something.
It's DPS check. I mean, that's it. It's you use the DPS LB because it's a DPS check, and that's
Like top.
Yeah, you have the Lara Brea thing in U as well, right? So,
but those are like forced. Like it's that feels boring, not
Yeah.
like an option, right? To make it to where
That's kind of my point. It's binary. It's not interesting. I kind of like the mechanics where it's like it's a little bit of a gray area. Like yeah, tank LB can remove some MIT from it, but you don't necessarily need it. So maybe you can skirt by without it.
Mhm.
I think that's more interesting personally, but
I mean,
I
when
think so too.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. Like in that sense, like the fact that P10S is like something you might want to consider tank being, but you don't have to. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is good because you have the option.
Yeah.
you have things you're gonna hate it though.
Well, I noticed a lot of teams when we were watching the race prog, they would use tank LBs as a utility at times if they felt like they weren't going to get heal LB in time, but they might be able to, if they could survive this next AoE, then maybe they could, or you know, raid wide, they could go ahead and start slow resing people up. And so there's certain spots where tank LB actually was pretty useful prog-wise to push further and try to get ahead and see those mechanics. I mean, adding that extra level of survivability so you can get everyone up, have like 30 seconds of downtime or whatever it is before it really matters, and still be able to kill the boss because the DPS check is so low, does make tank LB a little bit more useful, right?
I think when it comes to tank LB, and like Narrlocke probably experiences this when he's tanking, it's kind of one of those buttons where you really don't want to press it. You're always like, there's always this second guess when you're pressing it of, is this the correct move? Because you're eliminating a future healer LB3, which is objectively the strongest prog button probably in the game. And
Not if your healers are dead.
But exactly, that's kind of my next point.
Yeah.
Really, the only times that a tank feels really confident in pressing tank LB3 is when you have zero confidence in like your healers not just insta exploding to whatever you're dying to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty
definitely a
useful
skill
for
to have.
P2 and P12 to just see more mechanics when like one healer died or something.
I want to say, Frosty, I think this like dynamic you're noticing with how people use tank LB, this is something that has basically kind of always been that way. The only reason you're seeing it more now is just people's skill levels going up generally and being better at deciding when to use it. I think because nothing really changed with how you use tank LB. I think
Okay.
people are just getting better at deciding when to use it.
I mean, would you all agree, like right now the player base is probably at the top point and skill level wise overall?
I don't think so.
No, you didn't think it's lower than before?
Maybe
I think it's about the same as always. It didn't get better, it didn't get worse.
I mean, if you compare it to like last expansions.
I think compared to last expansion, yeah, I think it's probably better. But I mean, I would make. I mean, this is a bit of a tangent. I would make the argument it's not even as good as it was 4 months ago. But
Okay. So I mean, top came out, and I mean that does kind of like there's some level of separation because not everybody's going to try top, right? But top, it being one of objectively, I guess, one of the hardest fights in the entire game, had to have raised the skill level of a lot of players, right?
Yeah.
I'd say
But
the
it will be-
case are. They're definitely the hardest 2 fights in the entire game.
It will be the same next expansion when they release a new ultimate. The skill level will go up once again. It just keeps going up, probably.
bro, what do you mean when? Put an if.
I was really surprised when you guys were saying you think the skill level like isn't going up over time. I feel like should be like a natural thing to happen, right? is over time people get better. At least the people like at the top level get better. Maybe not player base as a whole. I think that's different. But
I was talking about the player base as a whole. I don't think the average went up at all. Since
the,
Mm,
the
but
average and the
at
top
the
end.
top
No, I
end,
think
yeah, I
it
think
went
people are getting
different.
better.
I think the average went up too if you compare to PF, like back in Heaven's Sword to now. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, now damage is much easier to do, right? You don't really have to.
yeah, but even then, like, I think in general there's more ulti clears every time, no? Like more people start clearing ultimate each new one.
We can always
That's a good
That
thing, yeah.
some of that could be chalked up to just straight up participation. But also, I do think people do generally get better over time, like on a long scale sense.
well, I mean, like when everybody. Never mind. I was going to make some stupid meme joke. Yeah, I don't want to do it. I was going to joke about Sauce Legends and all that good stuff, and
Oh no.
bring that up in the whole community. Jeez, dude. But I mean, technically top could be cleared without healers too. So there's that joke we could throw in there. We could do like all kinds of things with that, but whatever. Do you feel like this? I know. I kind of after we talked to you guys a bit. You guys said that try to do this with no healers. Do you feel like this fight is designed in a way that makes it required to have people heal it?
Which one?
I'm sorry,
Dem.
just the tier. Sorry, in general tier.
Oh, Demon 10. Oh.
No, yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, the tier in general. Like if
Healers are useless.
healers still useless,
I mean,
you think?
yeah. I mean, honestly, when people can clear top with no healers, you can clear the Savage with no healers too.
Yeah, I mean, Ultimate's harder than Savage.
I mean,
Like,
I don't. Okay, there's a lot of raid wides in the second half of the fight, and I'm trying to think how many summoners could you bring to.
I mean, it's not just summoners;
What?
it's also just tanks, and you don't need that much damage. So you can bring extra tanks, and tanks provide a lot of healing too.
oh,
Thinking,
but
like,
it's
isn't
so
it-
much, right?
P12 is tuned around tanks. It makes so much sense.
I think the top is like the damage is so like spread out, and some phases don't even have damage. Like phase
Right.
3 felt like nothing.
Well, wasn't the whole thing with P8 that like it was too hard to heal for like casual healers in PF? Like they were complaining about the healing?
Healing's actually
As
not that
PA
bad.
Yeah.
Hey,
Like P8, P2?
wait, has
In
PA been
Abyssos?
done without healers?
as if it don't
I
have
don't, I don't know, but I just remember like the whole debate of like healers were like struggling to heal in the fire and stuff in the P2. Because people
I
were like
think
so spread
Savage
out and
at
stuff.
like Savage with full crafts on everyone would be pretty. I don't want to say impossible, but harder to do without a healer than an ultimate.
Mm.
But maybe like full gear, everyone bringing full gear, then you can easily do without a healer.
Yeah, it always depends on the frequency of the raid wides, right? Like I don't think DSR has been done right because Dragon King just does too much damage.
I think
Yeah,
the
that
issue with
too.
DSR is that you actually need healers for like mechanics, like the Akafar. You need 2 healers for that, else it'll just kill people and then you'll wipe
Oh,
because
right.
else Rhaegar
It's
rages.
true,
So it's
actually.
this one is actually impossible
You just-
because
you
you
just-
literally need healers
I
for
mean,
the
sucks
it's
so
mechanics.
also
somebody-
applies for this fight, right? Like P11 is all healer stacks. You're not gonna be able to do that.
Listen, that's not true
No,
because it'd be like,
Say
yeah,
impossible. You can
It's
just
RNG.
have
do that
it.
because of the debuff as
You
well.
can just have a 10% chance of living every single mechanic and
That-
win
I
by
guess.
If
getting
people can
good
run it-
RNG.
because like, people can run at the codex until they get it. Like someone can bring one healer to DSR and RNG the stacks.
I guess.
Exactly.
Well, the thing is, with like Rage Struggle and Rages when it kills you, though.
Yeah, but if
Still
you're
worth
lucky
the
enough
RNG.
that it corrects,
Yeah,
you
no,
just
yeah, I
make 4
guess.
groups until it works. Forehead.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sorry to go off on that tangent, but it's something to think about. But I guess you're talking about P11 a little bit. Is there anything else on P10 that you guys wanted to dive into?
Good fight in general. That's pretty much it.
Okay. P11, would you guys say that's a good fight?
I don't know if
Which
good
is a
is the right
very
word.
standard. It's a very standard Final Fantasy 14 fight. It's
Yeah.
It depends
felt
whether or
what you
not
think
you
of
like
when you
every
think of
other
Final
fight.
Fantasy 14.
I would call
felt a
it
lot
boring.
It felt a lot like E11 Fatebreaker. Like it always has these like spread and then stacked together and then again and again, and it repeats throughout the whole fight. It's exactly what Fatebreaker does too.
Mm.
And in between, there's some a little bit different mechanics.
Okay.
There's some cool mechanics.
But I still think it was pretty fun, honestly. I still liked it.
I think it's fun to execute.
It's
but,
fun,
yeah,
but not very like innovative. Like
it's
there's
not
nothing
very
int-
innovative. Yeah, it's nothing complicated.
Okay.
The only time we had to actually like discuss was the orb mechanic on where people start and where they go. Everything
Yeah.
else is like you just see and it's like, oh, okay, that's Omega Fists, that's Fatebreaker, that's Emmett Silk Mirrors.
I think for people that start this expansion, it's probably a fun fight. If you never did like Fatebreaker and stuff, like if it's completely new to you, it's probably really fun.
Hmm.
I always think about this where the game is like getting old enough to the point now where these basic mechanics that they put like in between major ones in their boss fight design, they're gonna start like, there's only so many basic mechanics you can do, right? That put in between the major ones. So like at some point, they're all just gonna end up being very recognizable. I don't know.
You know
I'm
what's funny?
surprised they didn't add.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm surprised they didn't finish P11 with like a triple combo like they always do with every these. Like the third fight, it's always like at the end, it's like they combine everything into one thing. Like like purple, you go to Proteans pairs, knockback pairs, and then tank buster pairs. Everything's like happening really fast in order. I'm surprised they didn't add something like that at the end. Seems like the perfect fit for this type of fight.
What I was gonna say is that like the first fight took 2 hours. Then the difference between the first fight and the second fight, it looks like it was about 3 hours, just under 3 hours. And then between 10 and 11 was about 3 hours. So the first 3 fights were relatively about the same. Like you had 2 lockouts for P9, I guess maybe 2 to 3 for P10 and 2 to 3 for P11, it looks like, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Not us.
Yeah, you guys took a bit on P11, didn't you?
Yeah.
We don't talk about P11.
You guys lost like an hour.
Oh yeah, you guys did a little bit over 4 hours. Look at that. That's all right. All right, it's gonna take me 20. What got you guys hung up on actually P11? If you don't mind me asking.
I took as long, I guess, as P10.
No, I mean like you guys were talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
3. Okay.
Yeah,
The group.
Aether Group 3. What was the big struggle in that one?
Honestly, I don't remember. The first 3 fights are like a blur to me.
Okay.
I feel like it was probably consistency. That one mechanic where you have tethers and shit, I think we had a lot of times where people just died to that.
Mm.
And when I think we also had a pretty good pull that could have been a clear, but then there was a wrong call right at the end. And then after that, it took us another, 30 minutes, 1 hour until we actually cleared. So, yeah.
Just a consistency check.
Yeah,
mean,
mostly was consistency, I think, yeah.
Just watching from my blimp above, I mean, I think for both 9 and 11, AG3 had a couple pulls that could have been clears much earlier. Just kind of some like tripping at the finish line.
Okay.
Oh, that part you were talking about with the close and far tethers, that's definitely the hardest part of that whole fight, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the last mechanic that he kind of does looks kind of hard, but it's really basic. Like it looks hard at first, but it's really basic. With the safe spot and then stack, run across the arena, go into towers.
Yeah, they made it very easy that last mech.
Yeah.
Much harder.
You guys.
I mean, it's mostly just scary.
No, go ahead.
I feel like it's mostly just scary because it's that late into the fight, and you really don't want to fuck that up at this point, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's already like 10 minutes in or whatever. I don't know how long the fight actually is.
It's like a lot of like stuff happening, but it's all stuff that you already did beforehand, so you like already have spots for all the parts, so you don't actually have to like talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, I'm guessing you guys prefer this over the tree.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tree was very boring.
It had an interesting arena, at least, right?
Had an interesting last minute to the fight, and that was it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. they have to have different designers, working on this tier with different concepts of what they think the fight should be. Because if we have these kind of interesting ones that we can see throughout the tier, then this one just feels kind of plopped in there, like it's just fight design wise doesn't feel like it sinks in with the rest of the tier. Do you guys feel that same way?
I think so. Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's definitely whoever made the third fight definitely is a different designer from whoever made the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the first three kind of went by quick, like you said, it was kind of like a blur. But then when we got into the last fight, that one took a little bit over 24 hours. It looks like about 28 hours. But you have to include sleep and all. How much did each of your teams sleep before you got what's it, day 2?
5 hours.
5 hours.
5 hours. Is 5 hours enough?
It was for them. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
It was for them.
Kyle already had left like 6 hours ago.
Yeah, I had to leave early because I had to get up early. But I mean, I think they got kind of like scared from last tier in Savage, but they slept too long, so they were like, "All right, only doing 5 this time."
We took 8,
Yeah, well,
and
that
I
was,
believe it was a mistake.
Yeah, I think so too. I
And it
think
was
it was
last
like
tier for us.
7.5. Or something
That's
like,
exactly how we felt last time. Yeah.
That's actually, I was talking to Kana about that, about your sleep, and he said you guys slept very little for P8S, and then you guys overcorrected and slept more for this fight. But then we did the backwards. We slept a lot for P8S, and we slept very little for this one.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
it's
7
a
is way
weird,
too much.
change.
I think 7 is actually way too
Savage.
much in a tier where like every minute kind of counts. Like in Ultimate, it's fine because like Ultimate is a marathon kind of, so you want to
It's like a
have
week
some
long.
sleep. But in Savage, I think we should just go with a short sleep and just get it
Yeah, I
over
think you
with.
just have to bear with it.
Just
Yeah,
push through
Savage
it,
for
yeah.
sure.
Through it,
4 to 5
yeah.
hours and power through and get it done.
Okay. I mean, yeah, in the end, you guys had a difference of about 9 hours or so. So that wouldn't really have made too much of a difference between 5 and 8 hours of sleep, right?
Yeah.
In this case, at least. But
Last year could have made a difference. We lost by an hour. If we slept 3 hours less, maybe we could have won.
That's true.
Unlucky.
Yeah. Okay, so on this fight, there's at least a pretty good clear indicator of when to go to sleep, right? Because had to be a point where it's like there's just so much more to this fight, we're not gonna be able to just clear it within the next, I don't know, 5-6 hours, so you might as well just go to sleep and then try to clear it when you wake up. Was that when you guys hit phase 2, or is what I'm saying bullshit?
Almost.
I mean, it's
We almost hit phase. We enraged, and we're like, we really want to see the first mechanic on phase 2, so we can sleep with the new mechanic in our mind. But
Will
yeah,
you
we
sleep with the
failed.
new mechanic in your mind, though?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good. Like that's what
yeah,
like,
it's
happens.
really OP because then you go to bed and you
It's-
wake up and everyone's already figured out the first mechanic already because they were thinking about it while they're like getting ready in the morning.
It's something everyone should look into. Like always, don't stop raiding until you get to a new mechanic and you can sleep on the mechanic and think about it. If you like go to sleep with nothing new, then like
Mhm.
you're not gonna wake up with anything new, and you're just gonna have to do the same thing again.
That's fair.
Until you get walled on door boss for like, what was it,
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 enrages?
It's fine. That's exactly what happened to us in PNS. We just couldn't get through the door boss. We're like, all right, let's go to sleep. And the same thing here. We're like, okay, we're tired. Let's go to sleep.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. Door boss always.
Was that the same thing for you guys when you got near the enrage? You're just like effing and went to sleep for Aether Group 3.
I think we
Uh,
saw the last mechanic, like the super chain 2B or whatever it's called, and then we went to sleep.
We saw the bosses at like 8%. We saw Super Chain 2B, and we're like, okay, that's it. There's nothing else after
Yeah.
this. So we went to bed, we woke up, and then we got to phase 2 like in the first like hour, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got to phase 2 and like, what was it, like a couple pulls? Like not even like 5 pulls, I think. On the next day. It was really fast.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a hard time re-clearing that
Sleep
first boss after getting to phase 2 for the first time?
That's so interesting. No, every time you
Yeah.
queued in, we just one shot or two shotted every single time. I think we only had to re-queue one time the whole time. It's just like we went in, we killed it in 1 or 2 tries, and we're back on P2. Every single it was like the best thing I've seen for like a door boss since they started doing door boss for any team.
Yeah, and after Abyssus, I remember in Abyssus, like Dorba's hard walled us for quite a long time, multiple times. And seeing it not happen this day was really nice.
Nice. Yeah, and then you're hoping that you're trying to bait the snake out first, right? All that good stuff.
I think door boss consistency just depends how Papega you are at limit cut.
How? Okay, so
It also helped that
Yeah.
like it had no DPS check, right? So you can get through the door boss with like 4 deaths and just keep going. It's like, okay, sweet, phase 2 time. Don't think about that anymore.
Yeah, that's
Nice.
true.
How do you feel about there being a door boss?
Awful.
Boo!
Just make 5 bosses.
I'm not a fan of
Dorba's
checkpoint
is okay, but when it's 8 minutes long, I'm like,
2
okay, come on.
8-minute bosses is cringe.
It's
I'd
like
rather
4
they go
minutes,
like
and
the-
it's alright.
Do this Stormblood way, like a short door boss and a
Yeah.
long second phase.
If
I
you're
think
gonna make
that's
a
a
door boss
much
with that.
better.
I want there to be 2 8-minute bosses, but I want them to be 2 different bosses, so you don't
Well,
have to
okay,
keep doing the first one
I-
over and over.
Fine.
I like that more.
That's fine, but then just make 5 fights.
I think
Yeah,
these guys
exactly.
want 14-minute fights are crazy.
Well, why not just make 2 12-minute bosses insteed of 2 8-minute bosses?
I mean, I wouldn't mind
Do
that
you want
either.
to clear?
I would really like the fifth
Do you
one.
want PF to clear?
I mean, I don't know.
But I
Feel
rather
Check it out,
see-
8 feels short, man. 8 feels really short.
Yeah.
Savage Plus, a 5th optional turn that doesn't really drop a loot, right? Just you can do it.
Who would do
If you
that?
want to
Oh,
challenge.
what if?
It's like
Savage.
Criterion Savage.
Yeah,
You do
yeah.
it
What if
once
you
and
make
never
it
again.
where it's just the
Actually-
same fight? You just no one can die.
I actually like when bosses are short because then they don't have this pacing issue where bosses like take forever in between doing something. These
Will they repeat?
the final bosses, the door boss and the final boss, I think, are paced really well this tier, like compared to
Oh, for
usual.
sure.
Like, there's you're like actually engaged 100% of the time, which is like not super common, I think.
Mm, mm. You know,
I mean,
actually,
the issue they had before with like longer fights, like if I think back like Omega, was like they would just repeat at 50%, right? They did the big
Mhm.
mechanic at 50 and then just repeat it. That was like the issue with like 14-minute fights back then.
well, that was because
Mhm.
of Creator, and putting some like really interesting mechanics at the end, and people would just skip it.
That's why I think like Shiva did it the best with like being a long fight, but still like being interesting the whole time.
Frosty,
I
I'm
actually
proud
think
of I'm
DSR
proud
did
of
it
you for
best.
being a history buff there,
Oh
Frosty.
yeah, it's an ultimate.
Yeah, dude, I've been here for too long. I don't remember every single tier clearly, but I
No,
remember
you're
that
spot
one
you're
very
spot
clear.
on. That was the number one issue with A12 is all of the hard stuff was tied to the very end of the fight, and you didn't even see the very end of the fight.
I
Fucked
saw
up.
that very end of the fight.
It completely fucked design philosophy for like the next 2 years because then they just made bosses repeat themselves after 50% because of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure.
And I think they're coming back around where they're realizing they can't put the hardest mechanic too far at the end, but they're also realizing they don't have to do the entire rotation a second time anymore, right? Like they can just put maybe like 1.5 minutes of like basic stuff at the end instead,
Yeah.
which I think makes it paced way better than having a 12-minute boss fight where you're asleep for 6 of it.
Well, they kind of started doing like variations on mechanics you've seen before, right? Like the whole P8 with the Phoenix thing was kind of, you saw the tiles and stuff before. They just made a variation on it, and this fight as well. Like the fire you saw before, just a different way to do it, and the shapes as well.
The shapes of caloric and all that. I don't know. Yeah, I like the short fights with very big intensity on mechanics, like Nar said. And yeah, I honestly do think it'd be better if they just made another fight. Give us some more loot. People are complaining about that, I hear. Everyone
True.
wins.
I mean, they've given so much loot this tier, didn't
Give you everything.
they? Jeez. But that being said, in detail on this fight, the door boss. We could talk about that a little bit. Do you feel like the door boss was interesting and kind of fun to beat and figure out?
Yeah, for sure. It was
thought it was really fun.
very well designed.
Yeah.
Pacing was
And-
perfect.
It could have been its own fight.
Did you
Yeah,
guys
the-
go ahead?
I was a big fan of all the super chain theories. The way they visualize the mechanic is really cool.
Hmm.
Yep.
Did anything that you prepared for while like looking into the fight before coming to this fight? I know Netherland didn't do anything, right? They just kind of AFK. But I don't know if Aether Group 3, did you guys put a lot of time into figuring out the normal mode to see what would happen in Savage?
No, not
No.
at all.
Okay. Alright, then no one did anything. Got it.
We just
But
speed
that's
ran
not
instead
even
of speed running E9. P9 we speed ran Golbez. Sorry,
There's not even a lot to go off, I feel like, from normal mode, is there?
Yeah.
If like
so-
normal, the
It's not
fourth
a
turn you
lot.
can't really use.
Like-
Nar said it earlier. The fourth turn is useless for
Yeah.
normal mode because it's so vastly different in Savage the last fight. So you can't really
Yeah.
use anything in normal.
The 11th and 12th floor, we both like are both kind of. There wasn't anything to like go off of really. I think the most we did was like, are there going to be like extra super chains? Maybe it like shoots a plus or something.
Hmm.
That's like the most we got out of that, and that's it.
And instead it shot Proteans and pair Proteans, right?
Yeah, I actually thought her wing mechanic, where she like in the normal mode she like telegraphs them top down and shoots them in order. I thought the only difference was just that they were all going to show like all three telegraphs would show up at once because the mechanic still works that way if it always goes top down, and then it ended up going bottom up.
Hmm.
It was
sometimes
funny
top
the
down.
first time.
And
The
then she
first
turned
pull we
around.
got
It
there,
was kind of
I
weird.
just turned around and killed everyone.
We actually thought she would store the
funny.
wing mechanic. You have to memorize the order and do it later. SE loves doing that, right? Storing mechanics.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
thought for sure she'd do the wing mechanic. You gotta write down RLR or LR or whatever, and she's gonna do that like 2 minutes later while in between mechanics.
like E12.
Yeah,
Like
like
the
stacks and
storing,
spreads.
Shiva, yeah, all that.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, just storing. I thought she would definitely store that stuff, but nope. It's just straightforward.
Just turn around and kill you real quick for the lulz.
Yep.
That was really funny the first time she turned around.
Yeah, it was
That
funny.
was really funny.
Oh man. Okay, so Super Chain Theory was pretty cool. The ad phase, how did you guys feel about that one? I mean, it wasn't really an ad phase, right? It was just a dance.
Intermission?
Yeah, intermission, I guess. Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
It kicked
Yeah.
our ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took
That
a
ad
pretty
phase
big.
kicked our ass.
We took a
Intermission.
pretty big L right there.
Hmm.
I think though it kicked everyone's ass still. I think that's kind of the thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Wasn't
think,
just
I
us.
think that limit cut.
Is
Is
phase
that, is that what
really-
are they, when they say ad phase? Are they referring to limit cut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think
Cool.
with a lot of go ahead, Aaron. I'll save my thought.
I was gonna limit cut is I think where we actually gained back some of our time.
Hmm. So you just figured it out pretty quick?
It wasn't that like we still died to it a lot, but the correct answer we came to pretty quickly, which was 1-3 across 2-4 net move in, then 5-6 5-7 bait first, 6-8 bait second. We
Mhm.
figured that out pretty quickly. It was just like tuning it to like standing in the right spot so the dashes going across don't clip other people.
Mhm.
And there's like a big like thing with the ads jumping up at the start, and it ended up not really mattering. Like once you figure out that it could only be 2 beams and 2 cleaves in any order on the first set, and then the same with the second set, it's like, well, that doesn't really change how you solve it. It's just the timing is a bit different.
I think because of the size of the cleave in the center, it made that matter a lot less. Because you can realistically just kind of not care about the pacing of the beams as long as you know that you're next. It's supposed to be this like area denial portion of the mechanic, but it just kind of ends up not mattering as much as much as I expected it was going to when we first started looking at it. But yeah, I think probably the one thing that helps groups map that phase quickly is identifying early that the first 4 are just an inverse of the second 4. It kind of like really partitions the phase into a very digestible mapping. But I also do feel like that's a mechanic that kind of does just need to get mapped out. Like just take all the iterations, map it out, and then you see, oh, okay, it's not that bad.
Mhm.
For our group, we were so hard locked on 5 and 6 baiting first because generally limit cuts you have 5-6 pairs, 7-8 pairs, 1-2 pairs. Because we were so hard locked on that we didn't even think about like what if 2 odd numbers bait together. So we spent
Yeah.
so long just 5 and 6 baiting first, 7-8 baiting second. It's like we knew about the like inverse thing. MT saw that really soon, like it's inverse, but we didn't really think about like in terms of that. We're just like 5-6 first, just pray it works, right? It's just we had this weird ordering of what pairs we do first. It was just like really bad. And after a lockout, we're like, okay, something has to change. We're not getting through this at all. So we spent like another 30, 45 minutes just like trying. Maybe there's like different patterns you gotta do. It was a bad start to that mechanic. Just a lot of time wasted.
I mean, I was talking to another team about this. I don't mean this critically or anything. I do think that's a mechanic that probably is a bit carried by ninths, because just the more effort you put into mapping the different variations, like you see fairly quickly that 5-6 is just kind of awkward, and 5-7 gets you safety across just way more iterations. I would say the majority of team struggles that I saw in stream, because there was a lot of like stream struggles with that phase. It's entirely just because they didn't take the time to fact check everything on a spreadsheet.
That is definitely a spreadsheet or a mechanic that you need a spreadsheet basically to solve. Like, it's very difficult to do it without writing everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And like we gathered all the correct information pretty quickly, and like Suki said, we just straight up didn't put the information together correctly for like an hour at least. Like we had everything we needed and we just didn't put it together, so it was a pretty big L.
And who was your ninth man, Rumi?
I was sleeping. I don't know what you're talking about.
We don't have a ninth man that really solves mechanics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
We solve mechanics. We're the players who solve it. Yeah, scholars are play caster.
They are too smart at doing it themselves. So
we have
I couldn't even come close.
We have Skylar who helps with call outs and things, and like watching closely, and we had someone who drew pictures, and that was it. Those were our ninth mans.
We didn't even need pictures that much. He Rad like very nice.
He had, like timelines and everything.
He wrote down timelines. That was good.
His main job was to timeline every fight. Every time we saw like a thing, he'd write. We have like a timeline channel on Discord, so if anyone wants to, they can just quickly look over and see what's coming next. So his main job was just to timeline the fight, and Skylar's main job was to like call out. He was our call out guy. He was our trigger.
I think I never clicked on the timeline channel, so I forgot.
We both kind of also spend some time every now and then checking VOD footage if needed. But
yeah, they definitely help. They help us with like solving things, but it's more like all 10 of us. Whenever like we're solving a mechanic, all 10 of us are usually like all together like working on it, rather than like one person doing everything.
There's this like people are saying we have like 7, 8, 9th man. Like no, we literally do it ourselves. Everything pretty much.
Do you guys butt heads sometimes when you're discussing mechanics?
Rarely.
Actually, no. I mean, you guys have all full of prog. You can watch beginning to end. We don't butt heads. Like everyone gets their say on a mechanic, and it's usually like the final thing is always like, well, everyone had input, and we put it together, and bam, we have an answer within like a pull or two.
I mean, like of course it happens like a little bit here and there, because like not everyone like agrees on everything, right? Like it's just impossible to like perfectly agree on everything, right? But people in our group are really good about like, like I wanted to do like the backward shape mechanic one way, and like everyone else wanted to do it another way, and I was like, well, I think that way's stupid, and I like molded for like a minute or two, and I was like, okay, well, whatever, I get outvoted, right? So get over it. It doesn't matter, right? I got outvoted, right? So it is what it is.
Yeah. Except the L when you
just have to get over it. Yeah, you just have to like you just have to get over it.
Yeah.
It just happens. It's with every group, I think.
Yeah, like it's impossible to have like a 100% perfect agreement, because like if 8 people could have perfectly agreeing minds all the time, like every fight would die in like 8 hours, or every
if anything, they're probably one of the groups that is the best at it, because like there's sometimes where they just like explain a mechanic, or somebody explains a mechanic in the way they see it, and then all 7 instantly are like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that. Like they don't need another explanation, or they don't need like any more info. They're just like, okay, we'll do that, and then
we don't argue about mechanics.
Yeah,
we come up with something, we pull. There's no argument.
Yeah, we try it and see if it works.
I gotta ask this towards Aether Group 3 here, if that sounds familiar, or you guys operate a little bit differently.
Sorry, in regards to what? Like how you
process the mechanics, have ninth man, whatever, helping kind of figure out mechanics. Because I mean, when I was talking to the JP group previously, right, for all that stuff, they were talking about how there's one person who literally just tells them what to do, and everyone else just hits keys really well. And one person figures out everything and does everything for basically just, it's calling out the mechanics as they happen, directing them, and everything else. The other players, they don't even think about it, they just kind of execute.
It's an interesting dynamic because, like you just mentioned, I mean, that is kind of how the JP group operated last year. And I'll remind everyone present that they washed all of us last year. I think there is actually a lot of merit to how they do things. It's a style that is very different to both NA and EU. I think NA is probably somewhere in between. Not fully leaning one way or the other. A lot of the NA groups, I mean, they're pretty heavy on ninths. Maybe not Cleese's team. I think it maybe is just Cleese over there. But I know, like, speaking from AG3, like, they have a group of ninths that are very active in prog. And yeah, it's a question that I've been wondering myself, like, which style is more beneficial? I can see merits to both.
I just think that wouldn't work for this group. That's all I think.
Our
So
group's
for
pretty
me,
unique.
there's I actually don't like having too many ninth mens. It's something like, I remember Zep was like, we should add more ninth mens. I said, no, I don't want more ninth mens at all. Like, I was like happy with Skylar. Skylar was all I needed really to do callouts, because I think one unique thing about Final Fantasy fights is solving the mechanics is one of the most fun parts. I don't think pulling the boss is the actual fun part. Solving the mechanics is the fun part. So if we have a ninth man doing that for me, then I think it'll be very boring now. And I want to be the one to figure out mechanics and talk them through and solve them.
Yeah, and that's like the general NA and EU thought against it, right? Like, that's why it is the way it is. It's just interesting that JP doesn't seem to care about that.
I
and
definitely
just
think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go on. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think if you're thinking strictly efficiency-wise, like what is theoretically like most optimal, I definitely think what JP does is theoretically most optimal, like on paper, like for sure, right? It's just so time efficient that, like, it does have a lot of benefits, like you said. But like the only question is how often is that theoretical like situation like actually good for a group, right? That's the thing.
And just to provide chat some context, because there's probably a lot of people who have no fucking idea what we're talking about. Basically, like last year we saw like a really big example of Team Unnamed, who got first by a mile, for reasons that maybe some of their merit, maybe some not their merit. That's okay. I still think that they played better than everybody, regardless. And I think that everybody in this call agrees.
Yep.
What
And
about top or Pietas?
Talking about top, sorry. Talking about top.
Top for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
And like to give chat some context, basically they have one or two ninths that are kind of dictating everything that happens, like telling them when they can eat their lunch, when they can pull the boss, and the players are literally just soldiers collecting information for a group of brains behind them, and they're just chess pieces. There's pawns to be moved, and it's a very different style.
Yep.
I think it really depends on the group's strength, like what the groups are good at themselves. Because like, what was I gonna say? Let me think. I should do something else. I forgot.
I will say, like, we've actually talked to the brain behind Unnamed Foyer, right? He actually told us that like we're very different from the JP team he knights for top and Pietas, because like we're able to solve mechanics on our own, versus he said like that team wouldn't do it themselves. Like they just pulled while he solved everything for them. But he said you guys have brains while you're pulling, so you guys don't really need that ninth brain power. So it definitely is a very different team setting between us and Unnamed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was thinking like in WoW as well. I was thinking like the whole thing of like Echo being the team that takes like 1 hour breaks for a mechanic every time, right? And Liquid is like the team that pulls more, and Echo is the team that pulls less but thinks more. Like I think that's kind of the same thing, and like differences in like team styles, and the same as in this case.
And would you guys
I think we're
say
a combination then
you think you guys are a combination of that?
of that Liquid and Echo? Yeah, we pull very much. Like we're pulling and we're talking while we're pulling about solutions.
Okay.
Which just, again, like adding context, like that's a skill that these teams practice Frosty, like being able to talk while pulling, because in a Savage races are too fast to not have that be the standard.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. And after you figure out the mechanics, I mean, a lot of stuff. The trouble is figuring it out, right? The execution. Some mechanics take a little bit heavier execution, but more often than not, those first mechanics, you have time to talk. And easily just mitigate whatever damage is coming out, raid wides or whatever else.
Especially Savage, yeah.
Yeah. Not as much in top, I guess, because P1 you don't talk, right?
I think
Yeah, you have to focus on that P1 and top.
No
I
talking.
think top. Was
There's
the
like
first
windows of 20
time-
seconds.
I think top was the first time our group ever had to actively slow down, like on purpose. Like we would say, okay, you know this 5-second countdown that we've been doing to pull the boss after every wipe, just change it to a full like 15-second countdown, because people just like can't do that, right? Like we can't handle it. It's too hard.
That fight
it's too
was you
difficult.
couldn't process two things in that first phase, so you just had to like. Also, you had to talk before you pull in that fight. You didn't really have that luxury to pull and talk.
Mhm.
Yeah. But most content, it's usually you can pull and talk because you only have to focus during certain parts, not all of them.
Mm-hmm. Would you almost say that like Titan kind of had that feel to it as well, or is it you guys could talk no problem during that one as well? Because P1 was a little bit execution heavy.
With Titan, E4S?
Yep. Because the first phase was pretty execution heavy, wasn't it?
Oh, we're all
The
on
first-
different teams at that time, so.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what team you were.
Okay, fair.
I think like theoretically, the first phase of Titan is like pretty hard, but then you have like a literal cutscene and a giant
Yeah.
boss that does like super slow after. So it's
My memory of
usually
Titan, is unique, but I do remember being extremely focused in the first phase, because the first phase is where you can make up the most damage, and we needed damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, but
Well,
then
but that
again,
was
you could just
when-
throw. What was it? The joke about the
Distance timer.
yeah, the instance timer and the dragoon just jumping around, throwing the sphere.
Yeah, the angle dragoon or entropy. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
Good old Wehenti.
But I guess kind of going back to this fight a little bit though. Limit cut seems to be real popular right now. Do you have any thoughts about that in general, about seeing these dots pop up everywhere?
A little bit overused at this point, maybe. I don't know.
I love
only
it.
thing
Almost
I'm a
every
big
fight,
fan
isn't
too.
it?
It's in 3 out of 5
I
fights, let me cut. I think 3 out
I
of
mean,
5.
Those
typically,
dots
like
pop up.
they use it a lot. Yeah, go ahead, Ari. Sorry.
So when it does dots pop, I'm like, here we go. Like, what's
That's
it
a
gonna be this time?
Everyone
like,
spread
when-
out, let's see what's happening.
When is a limit cut based mechanic not a banger though? I mean, really.
Exactly. Every limit
Uh,
cut base mechanic is always great. You know something good's gonna happen when you see those numbers pop up.
Was that limit cut in top? I don't remember. I don't think there was, right? There was no numbers.
There
the only thing
was-
the only thing I dislike about it is when everyone calls every mechanic the same thing because they can't learn to call what a circle's called or a donut's called.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with like Dynamo and Chariot.
I hate when people call circles chariots and donuts dynamos. It makes me so angry.
You're never gonna get out of that.
I hate
dude.
when
T9.
people say the limit cut mechanic and it refers to literally every single boss in the expansion.
No,
Man,
Good.
I call so when we were progging P2, I called caloric by its name, and everyone on my team was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? What's
You mean
caloric?
the fire? You mean the
fire
fire?
bar? The pyretic mechanic?"
Yeah.
Well, we all called it caloric. It's funny. That's actually pretty funny. Different
Okay.
fire mechanic caloric.
That is a weird. I don't want to mess with names. I suck at names. But go ahead.
It's okay sometimes, right? Sometimes it's just easier to refer to things by the names of other things that you already know. It just makes me so angry when it's everything.
Yeah.
I can never tell what someone's talking about anymore because someone's like talking about, oh, when you're dodging the chariots, you need to like do this. I'm like, what? There's like a circle every 30 seconds in this fight. What are you talking about?
I couldn't name more than 3 mechanics from any previous tier without using names from 6 years ago.
I mean, T9 was the defining part of mechanics. It carried.
It
really
was a good fight.
Yeah.
What do you want?
One for the ages.
Yeah. But anyways, is there anything else in that first boss that you guys would want to dive into or mention? Were you expecting more of the platforms?
Maybe. I think they only use the platforms really one time. The end doesn't really count, I feel, but they could have definitely used more of those platforms.
I think
More
it was
platform
about as much
fights.
as I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So much
Honestly.
more you can do with it, I feel like.
I mean, yeah, but you only have so much time, you know, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was paced really well. I really like the pacing of these boss fights. I think like pacing is something that makes a boss really fun, in my opinion. It's like a big part of a boss fight to me.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. I know when I brought this up to Neverland on the call previously about the transition phase, they're like, "What? I don't know. I didn't even pay attention." Aether
Talking
Group,
about the cutscene.
yeah, the cutscene. How did you guys feel about that cutscene?
I don't even remember it.
Oh my fucking!
The hardest Sabik.
I want to say, I never said that. They didn't. I watched the cutscene.
I mean, I
Okay.
watched it, but like,
I actually,
it's not memorable.
I haven't
It
seen
is
anyone talking about it, but I
memorable,
think it's
man.
like super metal when the final boss starts quoting Ultima the High Seraph. I think it's like really like sends chills down my spine. Actually, I thought it was like really creepy in like a
Yeah.
good way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I thought it was, but who pays attention to the on-screen text or like listening to exactly what they're saying, right?
The second I saw the boss cast Helm Crush, I was like, wait a minute. I started telling everyone else, hey, be ready for other Ivylist mechanics, because this boss is just straight up quoting Ivylist and using Helm Crush and shit, and then another one never came. But
You know what was funny? I went back to get the VODs for the intro of the show, and I saw, I forgot which VOD I got from Aether Group 3, but the cutscene was still there. But I was on Zep's VOD for Neverland, and at a second it popped up at the end when the boss got cleared, it skips cutscene.
Oh yeah.
Just
Just wanted that screenshot, yeah.
That
You
was
wanted
the
the screenshot.
screenshot for Twitter. Yeah, that's the thing.
Screenshot from Twitter, put it up there first.
Oh man. I saw that.
I think Zep had the fabled. Didn't he have the fabled 7 of 8 watching cutscene?
So they watching
Yeah, he
cutscene.
did,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
he did.
That's yeah, that's pretty good.
it was pretty quick.
Yeah, he was instant on that.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
He even clicked the chest to open it right away as well.
Jeez, man, hungry. But I guess go ahead.
So no, I thought the cutscene was cool.
Yeah. It seemed pretty epic, man. I mean, it was different. You know, the last P8S, you know,
I can't appreciate it because I haven't. I mean, I'm actually. I do like the Pandemonium storyline to an extent. It's not like super enthralling, but I mean, it's interesting enough. I haven't seen the 9 to 12 story yet, so the cutscene it just doesn't have that effect on me yet.
I mean, I don't.
Pretty good.
It wasn't really. I didn't think of it lore wise. I mean, sort of in a way. It was just overall, it was not what I was expecting after having, you know, the previous one in P8S. It turned into like this crazy Resident Evil creature and face melting stuff, or bleeding out of the eyes, whatever it was, right? And then we go into this one, and it's like tentacle monster that encapsulizes everything into like a orb, and turns it into Rainbow Island stuff. Was just a completely different atmosphere, but it still felt really epic.
I still think I definitely prefer the cutscenes where you can actually play your character still, where you can move around. Things like XDeath cutscene or DSR cutscene, they just feel way more epic when I can see my character actually like standing there. Like DSR with like Gordon like in front of you, that's way more epic.
It's true.
Yeah, that's true. XDeath was kind of interesting because you have the wall like breaking around you.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like I remember I fucking panicked Tinklebead because I didn't know what was happening.
Just
like
to make
that's
sure,
fine.
you guys
Immersive.
immediately pull after that cutscene too, right? And
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, clock is ticking.
What
gotta
if,
get
what if
info.
it's not a girl
is there
boss, you know?
still like a thought that maybe it's not a door boss? Is there like a microsecond of like, hey, we have to try to live because if we die, maybe we go back to the beginning?
So at least in our group, as soon as we pulled door boss for the first time, we were like 15 seconds into the very first pull ever of the door boss, and elevation goes, man, this HP sure is going down pretty quick, and we knew right away.
Yeah, if the boss in the phase 1 dies at like 0%, it's pretty obvious it's a dual boss.
Okay.
I think by the 3-minute mark, it was obvious to everyone.
Yeah.
There's no way unless they would just decide to sneak in an ultimate.
It would be funny if they did the same as like Totem though, like where if you don't hit the boss before you die, that you just go back to the first phase.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, there is a chance they'll just take you back to the first phase.
I think it's different if there's like an actual cutscene.
Yeah, of course it's different, but
yeah, because I just
It would
remember
be funny.
Shiva, right? And so I keep just going back to Shiva, but they haven't done that again. So I don't know.
I guess
One
it
day.
could have been like a brute justice style boss where the HP literally goes back from 0 to 100, but
Right. You can tell it's a door boss because the boss is like not attacking you immediately, right? You have to pull her again.
Do
If
you?
it's like Shiva, you have to pull her. You have to pull the boss again. Yeah.
well,
Okay.
Unlike
doesn't it also literally say that limit gauge resets or something? So
that too, like the Shiva, it's not a door
Oh.
boss because it's just immediately back into the fight. Like there's no pulling
Yeah, well-
again. There's the limit break didn't reset, so you
Mhm.
can tell when
and,
something's a door
and
boss.
her HP is still like 58% or whatever.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's also the fact that there is a DBS check on the door boss. So, on Shiva, for example, you don't have a DBS check before the ad phase or something. So,
Do you
Yeah.
not? I thought there was a. Maybe I'm
No.
misremembering. Okay.
No,
not
the
just,
only-
like
you wanted to
the
get
ad,
it
the,
to a
ad
certain
phase,
level.
the ad phase itself was a DBS check, but
Right.
not
There's nothing
before.
before, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are obvious tells for door bosses. Yeah.
Okay. Well, going into the second phase, how did you guys feel about that fight, just overall?
I think that was a great second phase. It was fantastic. All the puzzles, all the mechanics,
Yeah.
I thought it was really fun.
very
too.
fun to do, very fun to
Really fun
solve.
mechanics,
Everything
yeah.
about it
Yeah.
was fun.
I can only speak third party because I wasn't actually playing, but my opinion is probably better than P8.
For
Mhm.
sure.
They tried some interesting stuff with that boss that they haven't before.
Like what?
Well, I mean, I think caloric is we've had like mechanics similar in the form of like pyretic or the queen from DRS, but it kind of shows how far client and server relations have come in this game. Because if you tried something like caloric 6 years ago, that mechanic would fucking flop. It would not function.
Mm.
Like
It
did like
could use some
Well,
improvement.
yeah, so all the positives said, there is a major issue with the mechanic that I'm sure everybody else
I'm sure you guys
is
are eager
aware
to
of
talk
whatever I'm
about
talking
it.
about it.
Yeah.
And it's not just our teams that are going through it. I've actually talked to a lot of teams after Prague, and I was surprised that it's literally everyone.
Yeah, everyone's got it at least once, I'm pretty sure. And I remember I was watching Xeno's group like doing their prog yesterday, and they got to that mechanic and they were progging through it. And their first like 6 pulls, the first pull had the bug, the third pull had the bug, the fourth one, the fifth one, like and the sixth one. And every time it happened, 2 to 4 people got it every time. So it's like, whoa.
I don't know if somebody wants to clarify like what the bug is for chat, because some
Well-
people are probably pretty clueless.
Before we do that, explain how it should work, and then go into the bug about how it what it is after that. Does anyone feel confident enough to explain that mechanic?
Yeah, the boss gives you a certain amount of distance you can travel,
Mhm.
and you have to manage to stack up and spread out using that amount of distance. It's a very strict amount of distance too, and the boss gives you an arena that you can use to like properly move around, which is like actually really cool the way they did it.
Mhm.
But the bug, for some reason, some people's stacks never go away. It just reapplies those movement stacks, so you can't move for like ever, and you just die.
It's because the boss gives you the stacking debuff that shows you how much you can move still, and there's like a fire mechanic that also gives you stacks, and it's supposed to happen right at the end of the mechanic as your debuff is falling off. But if the By the way, my group has been talking about this a lot, and we think it's related to server congestion because it seems to happen way more on NA servers than other servers. But there's this bug where sometimes your debuff will time out milliseconds before the very last mechanic hits you. So instead of ticking you from like 3 to 4 stacks and then it falling off at the end, it's at 3 stacks. It falls off, and then you get 1 stack, and you just have a stack of this debuff that stops you from moving for the next mechanic that it's not supposed to be there for.
Yeah.
It's kind of an unfortunate miss on their part, because if you look at limit cut, and sorry for calling it limit cut again, but if you look at limit cut on the door boss, the way it's designed is there's actually 1 second of leeway between debuffs fading and the boss's dash damage actually applying, and the snapshot occurring, and that's like an intended design of that mechanic. They have put a 1 second gap that timeline wise doesn't seem like it's there, but it's there to make the mechanic function. Otherwise, you have a debuff when the next mechanic is hitting you, and the mechanic just wouldn't function. For this one, really surprised they didn't give it the same treatment of just adding a static plus 1 second of leeway to kind of eliminate that problem from occurring. Just a big kind of miss on their part.
Yeah,
Okay.
the entire thing could be solved by just making the debuff last literally 1 second longer, and no other change would fix it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised since there's a maintenance Monday that it's fixed by Monday.
Oh,
That's
okay.
probably in there. I wouldn't be surprised.
So I don't got to worry
But-
about it. Cool.
But I feel like that's not the only issue. At least we'll argue what we have with the mechanic, like the stacks being shown as the way it is with the movement instead of like a gauge or something is really, I don't know, weird design to me. I feel like a lot of the group felt that way.
Yes, that movement mechanic should have like a gauge on your feet or above
Yes.
your head that fills up as you walk, so you know how much you can move. Like
I'll say that.
arbitrary distance that you have no idea. Can you walk any further? You have to
Yeah.
stop here. It was very annoying. It was actually not. That was the worst part of the mechanic, I think.
I'm a little bit torn on that, simply because, like, I mean, yes, I agree that a gauge would be one way of doing it. However, like, the obvious in-your-face showing of, hey, here's a really bright grid on the ground, here are some really big geometry clues, use them, and I feel like if they add a gauge, it just kind of, like, really waters down that mechanic.
See, I would agree if the second caloric mechanic was first, because if you don't see the second one yet, you don't know the sizes of anything. You don't really, you can't, like,
Yeah.
you don't know the wind doesn't go from corner to corner of each rectangle. The second caloric actually tells you that, but the first time you see it, it's like you have no idea how big these winds are. You have no
They
idea how
probably
big
could have
these
handled
fire
the
stacks
first
are.
one better. I agree.
It's
But the
like
first and the
more
second one
information on
actually-
sizes and how much you could walk would have made the first one much better if they don't want to add the gauge.
Easier.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
second
the
one,
first-
yeah.
The first and second one
just-
being switched actually would have fixed
Should
a
have
lot of issues
swapped
with
it.
it.
Yeah, it would have been better.
Made the fight a lot
It
harder.
would have been much easier to like spread out for the first one too, because when you see the first one the first time, you don't know like the size of the winds. You don't know how much you can walk. But the second one
first
actually
one-
tells you that because the red circle actually appears on the ground with the 8 stack.
You just
Now
play
okay, that tells you, oh, this is how much you can walk. Obviously, it's a diagonal of a rectangle.
The first one or the second one also does like a lot better job of just teaching you how the debuffs work in general, because you get the sizes of the AoEs at the start, and also whoever starts with the puddles under the feet will obviously start running away from them, and you'll be able to immediately see, hey, this guy's stacks is going up and he's running away, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, was that the most interesting part of the fight overall? I mean, just figuring out the caloric.
Interesting,
Shapes,
no,
the
probably
second
most
game
frustrating.
Just frustrating. Okay. Was the D&D dice better?
Do you mean the
That's
shapes?
cool.
I guess?
The shape's is cool.
Yeah, that mechanic was. The first one was very cool. The second one, I thought we were fucked. When we first saw the second one where they swapped positions, I was immediately like, "This is fucked. We're not getting through this. Impossible."
I feel like Shapes would have farmed my boomer eyes. I don't know.
Yeah.
We were despairing really hard about it, and we argued about it for like maybe an hour.
That's
like
the
an
one
hour or
mechanic we
something.
argued about.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
argued about it a little bit, and then
It was so
and then
funny.
We
eventually
talked
we
about
all
it
like
for 30 minutes
agreed.
/ argued about it, and then we fucked it
And
up only
then-
one time total. It was
Yeah,
like
then we
we
went in
nailed
and-
it. We fucked it
Yeah,
up one
then we-
time, never fucked it up again.
We spent so
second-
long arguing about it, everyone like visualized it 10 times over, and then we went in and just did it perfectly almost every time. It was sick.
Was that the same for you guys over in Aether Group 3?
No, it was more of the other way around. We barely argued about it at all. We just all decided to, just use your eyes and do it in your head. But then we died to it a lot.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so the other mechanic that stood out a lot was the miniaturized or zoom out mechanic. How'd you guys feel about that when you saw that?
Funny.
Memes.
Immediately thought of
Very
really
funny.
cool.
Yeah.
Very funny.
It's very innovative too. It's really cool.
I really like that. Even though that mechanic is kind of like not actually
Basic.
really much of anything happening, I still really like it a lot just because it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It would be cool to see
I
it in
really
the
want
ultimate
someone
form.
to ask Yoshi P if they made that mechanic after the whole top
Nah.
thing, or if they already had an idea. I really want someone to ask him and he tell us.
Same.
It's too short of a time frame.
You, I don't know. I think.
I think
Nah,
if
it's
you-
a little
if
bit
you're
spicy.
That being a coincidence? I don't know, man.
I think
I
it's
think
too short of
it's
a time frame.
I think they got
way
a sense
too
of
likely.
humor. I think they got a sense of humor over there, and that's
If
what was
you're-
on.
If you're talking about like a whole boss in a formal time frame, yeah, definitely not. But if you're talking about just one mechanic in a formal time frame, I think you could get that in there.
Probably,
really
but I
wanted
feel
to.
like they already had something similar like that
Yeah.
planned.
Yeah, they probably just adjusted something they already had. I would think.
Mm-hmm.
I
Because
would
I mean,
love that, like,
again, it's not like a zoom out. It's actually just
It's just you become tiny.
yeah.
She get bigger.
Oh, that's the next one. You become giant. So all become like giant rows.
Wait a minute, what?
The next time?
Oh,
instead
when they
of
do it
everyone
next time,
becoming
make it-
tiny, they make it everyone big, so like you can't see your hitbox, so you just get hit by everything.
That'd be great. I mean, they already do that to bosses sometimes, right? They make them too big that you can't see mechanics around them. Man, I don't know. I saw it. It looks really cool. It does really look cool. The way that they did it when you see the mechanics actually executing. But it is kind of a. I don't know. I definitely feel like it was. They saw that and they're like, we could make something cool in a fight that looks kind of like that. I do think it was based off that. I don't think there's any way that they could have like. They could have done it on their own, but I don't think they did do it on their own. They got the idea and said, hey, how can we put this in a fight because it would look cool?
I think at best they might have adjusted something that they already had, right? Because 4 months isn't very long in in a large development setting.
Mhm.
Especially when they're already developing shit like a year beforehand and stuff, like expansions and stuff.
Yeah, everything has to be written out and planned like very carefully. It's really impressive.
I was gonna say, do you dare to ask that next time, Frosty, if he planned that? Or if the-
What I might say, what might be the better ask, and if Yoshida's listening to this now, this is the way I guess I could phrase it, is when you, God, I'm never going to be invited to anything ever again.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but yeah, no, the way that you would phrase it is, where did you get the idea for it? That's it.
yeah.
Then he gives you a look. He just glares at you.
Yeah, that could be it. Because at the same time, it was a sad scenario. I know Yoshida was upset about it. Everyone was upset about it and everything. It's just, it's so on the nose that there is no way people can't think about that, right? There's just too on the nose for there not to be a correlation there.
At the very minimum, they had to push it out the door knowing what it looked like, even if it was already like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
that had to be minimum.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so I am curious just on the thoughts of that, and if I'm sure there's a good answer out there somewhere, and we'll see if we ever know. I don't know. Again, like for me, like I'd feel bad like if it was something that would be worrisome to ask. I wouldn't want to ask just because I do have a lot of respect for all of them over there and their team, but at the same time, I feel like this is an obvious thing. Like he would be expected to. Someone's going to ask him that. I don't think that there's any
Just
way to
wait
get
for
away.
the wait for the Q&A panel at FanFest.
I can't imagine them ever having to do that. Man, who knows if they even let like certain media back in.
Don't they screen those online now?
They screen them.
Well,
The questions.
they screen the ones for like if they're going. I don't know. I don't. I have to be honest with you. I don't want to speak like I know exactly what they're going to do for this FanFest or anything. But I know it's still open Q&A for like media that are coming in, and then when they have a special segment for them to ask questions. And that's where we got the ERP question from previously. So
And the flowers and all that, and the fruit.
oh yeah, I don't know. I can't remember that one. The other one just like stood out so much to me. Yeah, we'll see.
I was gonna say, I remember back in 011, people were curious how the big fists targeted players, because there was like no real like way to tell which people would get targeted. And somebody asked it at a Q&A panel, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, it's bugged. We don't actually know how it works." But it
Oh
worked.
Did they
yeah,
actually say that? I don't,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
said
remember
it was a
hearing
bug
that.
with the
They did
big
say it was
fist
a
in
bug.
011. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
They
it just worked
acknowledged it.
out, so we didn't fix it.
That's hilarious.
yeah. I think I remember them saying that too.
I was more impressed that they knew exactly what people were talking about, and they knew right away that it was a bug.
They're pretty involved, I think, with the fight design in general. Even Yoshida himself,
glad,
right? I don't know if he's like, clearing it and playtesting it 100%, but I do feel like he experiences the fights on some level and gives green lights for it. So,
We definitely know that's true because there was a big interview around AlphaScape 011. I remember there's an interview where Yoshida said that was the first time he ever had to go to the battle design team and tell them to get rid of the entire boss and do it over again because it wasn't good enough.
Yep. There's gonna be like three. There's gonna be like 2 level checker phases, and he's like, "What is this? This is an Omega." And so he made them only do like 1 phase, and most of the fight was like made to be towards Omega. That's for 011. It's pretty cool. He definitely plays.
yeah, and so I'm pretty sure everything that's in this tier, I mean, even with Final Fantasy 16 and everything coming up, I'm pretty sure he has at least touched these fights and has seen them. So
Yeah, for sure.
But that being said, is there anything else on just P12S you guys wanted to hit on?
The towers with the
debuff.
numbers.
Yeah,
the
the
numbers?
The debuff that reads like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
yeah, the long, like someone put that whole text on a Yu card. It's like it was a whole paragraph long.
Yeah. How'd you guys feel? So let's talk about it.
So we came up with like 2 1s the first hour pretty fast after like the second or third time we saw it. I noticed in the Groups 3 video they put 2s and 0s in the first hour, so I did want to ask them, who gets the 1 debuff when you combine a 2 and 0? Is it always a 2 guy?
It's always the 2 guy. 0 guy never gains anything.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, so the wording on that thing was so weird to me because
It was wrong. We figured out really quick. I'm like, wait, this is incorrect.
the wording is not correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because technically when you combine a 2-0, both should get 1, but they probably just hard-coded 0s can never gain a stack. It was a very interesting way it's worded.
2 plus 0 is like a big like an outlier of how the mechanic is actually supposed to function because, like they said, 2 plus 0 should equals 1 plus 1, but the mechanic is hard coded to never give a 0 a number no matter what, which seems weird.
I think they overlooked that, honestly.
Yeah, it's because of the slimes, right? You couldn't. The sort of as a slime wouldn't work.
No,
but then you would just say that they did it incorrect, right? The mechanic was
right. I guess
the reason that it's weird is because the mechanic still works even if you don't have that in there, right? You can still solve the mechanic perfectly fine by doing 2 plus 1 in the first tower, and it literally works completely fine. So it's like kind of weird that there's an exception that doesn't actually need to be there for anything to work.
I'm actually curious how the other languages, how it reads, like GP and stuff, and like German and stuff. How the debuff reads on that.
I mean, I'm sure it's up somewhere. It has to be. If we Google hard enough,
probably.
I just don't know.
I just remember MT saying that it wasn't as complicated in the Japanese version, which is normally the case.
Yeah, Koji likes to have fun with his translations.
A little too much fun.
Yeah.
Off escape.
Escape.
Yeah.
And speaking of that mechanic too at the end with the slimes, I really liked how we came up with the rescue strat. I loved like using rescue for mechanics. That was no downtime, just rescue the guy over. It was a very nice use of rescue. I hope they use rescue more. Like, give more mechanics rescue.
Like where you can optimize with rescue?
Yeah, with rescue. Or maybe even have a mechanic require rescue.
I don't know about require.
Why not? Like,
that is so far off my bar.
Well, we had the arm's length in DSR, right? So why not?
Yeah, I think it would be cool if they made a mechanic that required rescue. No one would actually think of that solution as a thing, right? Because they never require rescue. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
It would
might-
be really cool, just having a
That might-
mechanic
That'll
where-
require
They might be
healers.
scared. They might be
Oh,
scared
yeah,
of making
exactly.
it required because in case they ever decide to get rid of it in the future, right?
Don't get rid of
But
it. Just
Even
add
then you
more
just
stuff
change
like
the mechanic.
They should never get rid of rescue,
Just change
right?
mechanics
never.
before.
Don't
Yeah.
please
But
don't get
But
rid
they
of rescue.
could, right?
I mean-
They might.
Good.
I mean, they could get rid of a lot of stuff, but
They can get rid of Asuna, but
Yeah,
they
I
still
don't
have
know.
mech.
Please get rid
They
of
can
it.
get rid of arm's length
Did you
too
guys
if they
u-
wanted.
did you
Did
guys
not like
use?
that.
No, nothing.
Did you guys use Asuna?
Had
Yeah,
to.
we Asuna it every
It's
time.
it's really annoying because you gotta hold your GCD,
It's-
otherwise
it's
the
really
tank dies.
It's really
One
tight
time I didn't hold my
timing,
GCD,
actually.
the tank died. It was like, okay, never again, dude. It's not happening again.
Let Bagel fall over. Like, okay, never again. I'm just gonna hold it.
All right, I'm gonna show my ignorance real quick. Doesn't Warden's whatever or the bar?
Kaon.
Yeah.
Oh, we use that as well.
That's why we said that's why they took a bot.
That's what we said. They guys swapped to a bard. It's like the healer was like, I'm not Asunaing. Fuck you guys, dude.
Yeah. Oh,
Libby didn't have to Asuna because we had Chayo on Bard.
nice, nice.
He also had to hold his GCD, which is also bad.
Yeah, sometimes. So one time, I didn't want to click my GCD, so I wanted to do it after my GCD, and it was already too late. So from that
All right, you
point
can
onward,
you can even pre-use it, right? Because it just
no,
keeps
no, no,
stacking.
yeah, it keeps
Uh,
reapplying the stack. So if I pre-use it, when it like my
it only is
thing will just
one.
get removed after the first stack already, and then he'll just end up with free. So I have to time it correctly too.
That's annoying.
Oy. All right, what else we got on P12?
Well, back to the slimes. I enjoyed how that debuff was so overloaded, didn't even mention it's on slimes. We just couldn't fit it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. It literally didn't say anything about that at all anywhere.
Right.
It just
So
So
we
happened.
pop up and we're like, what the fuck are those?
You just look over like, who took a dump in the tower? What happened?
That's kind of weird.
We
Yeah.
saw the slimes. We're just like, ignore the slimes. Whatever they do, we'll figure it out. But just do the towers correctly. Who cares about the slimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that worked out.
Did you?
And I like how they thought of tanks. You can't
Invuln?
invuln the slime
Yeah.
tethers.
Did you
Originally,
guys
when we
try
saw that,
too?
we're like, just tank invuln. Who cares, right? Like, just invuln.
Yeah.
They actually thought of that. Like, no, you're not allowed to cheese that mech. But I guess
Actually-
rescue
actually,
is kind of cheesing. I don't know if that would be considered cheese.
I see every group try to tank Invuln, so I could say like, oh, just tank Invuln, and I was like, oh no, and then the next pull they just die.
With the slimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we Arcana hit Bolide, and if he didn't have Corundum on, he would have instantly died. He was lucky enough. He was lucky enough to be a 0, and the Corundum brought him up to livable HP when the slimes all jumped on him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we didn't use Hallowed for that, so my group might not know, but the slimes, even if you do it correctly, it still pierces invuln. So if a gunbreaker runs over there and uses Super Bolide for the tank buster, and he goes to 1 and the slime hits him, it just kills him.
Yeah.
Worms Lament moment.
Oh man.
Oh yeah. Worms Lament.
Do you like those kind of mechanics being in there where you can't just cheese through it like with the tank invulns? Like, do you guys think that's a good thing for them to start like forcing it where you can't use it to just
Yeah.
completely break
Yeah,
mechanics?
absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, there's
I
too
feel like-
many mechanics where you can already cheese it, so.
I feel
Yeah.
like they already kind of do that with like most mechanics. If there's something with a failure state, it goes through invuln like 90% of the time.
'Cause I don't know if you've seen the dual boss strat that a lot of groups are using these days, even the JP groups I saw using it. It's like the two tanks just invuln the ads at the start, the 4 beams. The tanks just invuln and just stand still and just eat all the 8 beams. And the group just AFKs in the back or in the front. So like you don't have everyone having to move and split out, you just have the tanks invuln and eat all of them. That's probably gonna be a thing a lot of groups do.
Oh yeah, I hope that all these stupid ways are figured out before I get there. Yeah, because I don't know, man.
I don't like them. That's why I like when they made twice come ruin, thrice come ruin. That was the best decision, and they should use it more because I hate cheesing.
I will say, like, watching this entire tier, like, it was a little bit of despair thinking about how this stuff was going to turn out to like casual players and like Party Finder and everything else because it just looks like overload. But I don't know. Maybe
They'll find a way. They always find a way.
Yeah. I think it's more prog heavy than like farm. Like it shouldn't be too bad in farm and like strats are like ironed out.
That's true. Yeah. But okay. Do you guys? So in the end, this was a pretty good tier, I guess, for both of you guys agree that this was a really good tier to end off on, especially with what we were dealing with the last couple. or well, what you guys were dealing with. I didn't really mind the previous tier at all, but that's because I was pretty casual with raiding for quite a while. But going into like what we see next, would you want them to carry this kind of fight design philosophy into the next expansion, or are there any adjustments?
So, yeah, for Savage, I hope so. This is how they go with it. Maybe make a deep check a little harder, but keep it up with these puzzle mechanics, which is I think Final Fantasy is really good at. Even like Echo was talking about it. I was watching Roger's stream. He was like, Final Fantasy does these like puzzle mechanics with 8 players really well, and that makes the game very fun. Versus like WoW, where you don't really have those puzzle mechanics. Just like you send 1 or 2 people to do a mechanic while the rest of the team is just attacking the boss. It's something very unique to Final Fantasy, and I just hope they keep this kind of stuff up. And it's very fun to prog. I hate playing Final Fantasy in between because it's very boring to reprog or re-clear over and over again. But the first time you lose the mechanics is a really fun experience.
What Final Fantasy does well when it's at its strongest is when fights are incorporating all 8 players. They've been pretty good about that in recent years. It was a learning curve for them. Probably started hitting their stride with that in, I'd say, early Shadowbringers, maybe end of Stormblood. But it's a big difference like when it comes to Final Fantasy between like other games like WoW, where again, I was also hearing Roger talk about this. You can't have boss mechanics that just incorporate all 25 players or all 20 players in a mythic raid. Versus in Final Fantasy, you can. It's when the game is at its strongest, they need to continue to capitalize on that. Just please stop doing door bosses.
Yeah. Just make a fist fight or
5
just
bosses,
stop
5
doing
bosses,
it.
let's go.
Yeah.
And,
One
and
or two.
don't make the last boss 15 minutes because there's no door boss. 8 minutes is fine. Like it's a little short.
8 minutes is too short. 8 minutes is too short.
Way too short.
12 to 13 is a nice one.
I 12, 13. So that's good,
Yeah. Don't 8-minute boss. Jesus Christ. I mean, the first boss is how long?
I'm the kind of person that I would rather, like, I would take a 12-minute boss and just literally shrink the mechanics down to 8 minutes and keep them the same but just faster. That's how I prefer it.
Same.
I don't like when the boss is 13 minutes long because it has to spend 2.5 minutes auto attacking.
All these Shiva lovers, I bet they didn't PF much because that was miserable.
I thought Shiva was really bad about that. It
I've
was
never
like one
PF'd in my
mechanic
life.
every 60 seconds.
Like go 11 minutes deep into Shiva and wipe the Dragon Song, be my guest, or Icelet.
You mean die to people not pressing the arm's length on time and just falling off?
That was the most. What was the in Shiva? I forget the exact mechanic. I think that's what you guys talked about, right? Where the tanks use their anti-knockback or whatever, and they all have to like hit it at the exact time to cover both of them.
Everyone had to hit it. Everyone had to hit it.
But it's like
And the tanks
half
would be
a second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very short.
Yeah.
It was PF just shooting itself in their own foot. That
Because they wanted that time.
that could have never been the pug strat, and it just caused so much more problems than it actually solved.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing with Light Rampant. That should have never been the pug strat. Good old Ilya strat. That should have never been the pug one.
Mm.
Man,
It
gotta
wasn't
get-
really
I don't really see why not.
The other
I
one
think
was way
Ilya was
better.
fine.
I don't remember the other name, but that one was way better.
Sharingan.
The other one was more uptime, right? But it was much tighter. I swear
Totally,
Ilya was
or
the more
Tori?
free one.
Yeah, I think Ilya was pretty easy. Just you lost uptime if you had got the orbs. So
Yeah.
I think for a PF it's fine. I don't
It
see
was
a reason
fine.
to
I did it.
not have it.
The
Yeah.
PF shots should always be the easiest one, not like the most uptime one.
Yeah.
Uptime gets solved by gear.
hmm Speaking of which, I mean, when everybody's fully geared, how many mechanics are going to be skipped on these fights?
I wouldn't be surprised in 12 if you
fight
skip
will
the whole
die at
last part.
Korok 2. No, you'll just die
Yeah,
at Korok 2. I
you
think.
skip the whole last part, yeah.
You don't see the miniature part again at all.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
full gear.
This is the
the
big
thing-
problem. Yeah, go ahead. I'll say after.
The thing I feel about this topic is that I think the people who are skipping entire mechanics at the end when they're in BIS are also probably the same people that are good enough that they could just do them anyway, right?
Not necessarily. There's like a difference between speedrunners and proggers very often in this game, right?
I mean, for
talking
this
about,
fight,
like,
the
in the
last
context
mechanic
of,
is
like-
very simple.
I'm talking about
Yeah,
in
I mean,
context of like
yeah.
Party Finder.
Mm.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the
Yeah.
take the take to probably have. I think I now have come around to Zep's side because I was talking to him about this the other day. He's that this game kind of should play to its strengths, and farm is not this game's strength. It just hasn't been. It's very rare that someone loves farm outside of like, speed reading for like an agenda. This game is all about prog. It has been for the entire existence of it. And when they tune the bosses so that they're more fun during prog, at the expense of being less fun during farm, I guess whatever. Kind of like playing to what Narrlocke said a little bit. People who are skipping that stuff later on, they're probably the same people who already got to have fun with it in prog. Also, there is quite a bit of an overlap there, so it's okay, I guess. Like, it's not a perfect scenario at all because it does fuck farm really bad, but farm sucks anyway. Whatever.
I mean, when it's a fight like this, it's not that bad. But like, for example, like 8-12, it was a lot worse, right? Because you skip like the whole hard mechanic.
Yep.
But when it's like this, it's like there's nothing really going on at the end. Like, there's nothing interesting.
Yeah. Which, yeah,
like,
I think they realized that. But yeah, go ahead.
At the end of 11, you might skip Letter of the Law and Abyss, but it's also, like I said, only if you're already really good. So.
Okay.
You might skip the big damage in 10, so you don't have to deal that. The harrowing hello, whatever it's called.
Maybe that's at like, I think that was at like 40.
It's a bit early, right? Yeah, it's a bit early.
Early.
6.5 minutes or something.
It's a bit early.
I remember only thinking about that at 11 because the Letter of the Law happens at like 15%, which I think if you're like really pumping is pretty doable in Abyss.
Okay. Well, is there anything about the fight you guys want to jump into before we go on to the other topic, which I had, kind of focusing on just the race in general?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we covered most of it.
Nothing that hasn't already been said, I think.
Cool. So first question, Aether Group 3, actually. Since you stole Bagel, do you feel like that was a good choice for your team?
What a fucking weird question.
Are you accusing us of something?
What a fucking weird question, Frosty.
I know, right?
Answer the question.
So why don't
Was
we
he
have
in
Layla
the
answer the
Layla?
question as well?
Sorry.
I mean, answering that in a non-meme way. I mean, I think he was a good addition to the team. Like, obviously, he was my replacement. I can't afford the time to play. I think probably just looking at it on paper, like anybody who's played with me knows that like there are better button pressers out there than me, and I would probably classify Bagel as probably being one of those people. Even just I haven't interacted with him a ton, but just a little bit I know about him. And like the strengths that I bring to a team are a bit more like administrative and just kind of as like a traffic controller. Like that's my biggest strengths, I would say. And AG3 has a lot of that, like just inherently built in between like people like Ara, people like Chayo, people like Libby. Like there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen already. So like me stepping down for somebody who is like a better button presser, I mean, I thought that was just a positive. So yeah, I mean, I would call that good.
So your replacement was good.
And fuck you for trying to fish for something otherwise.
Were you guys stealing from Kindred? Was it?
He was from Kindred, yeah.
He was Kindred.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I just remember that.
Bagel's very good.
Yeah, he's a good player. I just remember talking to him before. I don't think you guys saw him. No.
Frosty took like one Twitter comment and he's just like running with it to try to stir up fucking drama.
Is there a Twitter comment about it somewhere?
No, I'm just insinuating. I have no idea why you would ask that question.
I just wanted to ask something stupid, and I achieved it. So, all right.
Now you really leave me speechless, Frosty. You took me there.
He's gonna be like, how did you guys feel like we're dropping an Echo player from your roster to us? Like losing.
I mean, that was my next question. You know. Yeah.
However, though, Bagel was with us in the very first year in Endwalker, like in Esodaros. So basically, if we didn't poach him, he just came back to his roots. That's all that happened.
Okay.
All right.
That's fair. That's fair. This race overall, again out of the memery, of course, a little bit. This race overall was pretty interesting. You know, we're coming out of like a weird situation with the community and everything from the previous race and top. And I know, like, on Neverland's side, you guys are really hardcore about getting the VODs and everything else and just doing that part. Do you feel like, I don't know, what made you run to that situation? Do you care what the community kind of thinks about your group at all?
Some of us do, some of us don't. But it is really annoying hearing all these dumb accusations over and over again. You know, it's like at some point it's gonna get to you. You know, if you're reading the Reddit or something, and someone's like, "Oh, look at this cheater land," you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it does get to you a little bit. It's really annoying. So
I feel like at this point there's no pleasing. I feel like
Yeah,
you
that-
try as much. At this point, the only thing we can do is stream, and then even then, I feel like it won't please enough people. So it's like, why even
It's
care anymore?
'cause-
I mean, you
It's
guys have
'cause-
our streams. Like our streams are out there. Like we didn't go back and edit our live streams,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
you can see
I
it.
could
So
have linked it to
streamed 3
people.
days ago. You can't go back and edit something you streamed 3 days ago. And
Mhm.
You have all, and people are still like, you know, out there saying stuff. So I'm at this point after this, I don't care anymore. It's not gonna bother me anymore. Whatever people want to say, they can.
It's
But
like
I-
it's. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think for me, it's like it's less about validation of people because, like they said, it's nothing is ever enough for some people, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what they'll say is if you don't have VODs, oh, they cheated. Oh, you do have VODs, oh, like you can hide your plugins, so the VOD doesn't matter, right? Oh, you streamed the whole live stream so you could hear all the strats being worked out. Well, it wasn't everyone's live stream, so it doesn't count, right? Or whatever, right? Like there's always something.
It's a
Right.
very vocal
It's-
minority. They're very vocal lately. It stems from a lot of entitlement. It's one of those situations where it's just going to be them choosing to live in their own ignorance is really only to the detriment of them. So, I mean, that's all you can really say about it. I don't think that groups should choose to stream based off of like how the community perceives them. They should stream if they want to. And I don't think any of these groups owe anyone anything.
You're
and
right.
for anyone to think otherwise is so entitled.
Amen, man.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
Now that being said,
It's-
they are all pussies for not streaming.
True, actually, I agree.
True. Not
I mean,
wrong.
True.
Not wrong,
the-
I guess, but you know, we want to win. We're not getting you a prize, right? I guess if you did stream, you would get a prize, but
I mean, I think it's also the issue of like some people in the group don't want to be on stream, so you
Yeah,
have the
it's
issue of like having to rep people.
Yeah.
In the end, you have to do what you feel is right and makes you feel like you did the right thing, right? That's all it really is. Some people don't, you know, for some people don't care about validation and don't care if what anyone thinks. So like, you know, why would they stream? They don't care. Like they're doing it because they think progging is fun, not for your approval, right?
I think what we did now with like uploading all our full prog is a good first step, I guess. You know, it's actually very fun listening to people figure out mechanics, because that's very fun to watch Echo. Like I'm watching Echo right now. Every time they stream, figure out mechanics. It's very enjoyable, and like people don't really get a glimpse of that at like a world first team ever, pretty much. So like, it's I think a good first step is at least uploading your full prog, and people can like see it.
Yeah.
And see what's going on in what's actually happening behind the non-stream groups, you know.
Yeah, as long as the team like agrees to do that and everything else. I mean, for my perspective on that too, it does help in some way, right? It's not people are there's always going to be that person. It's like I'm never going to be happy because I'm bitter and I hate that you're getting a cute mount that I can't have, right? So like that's always going to be there, and they're going to try to degrade other people. I mean, that's not just with raiding and world racing. That's literally everything. Streaming, whatever it could be, something where someone's succeeding, and they have something to bite onto that makes them feel valid for being upset. So
I want to say that streaming is like hype as hell for everyone else, and I don't think it's like a bad opinion to want everyone to be streaming, right? Like you know, it's a good time. Like I don't think that's a invalid opinion or anything, and it's not like people don't have a point with most of these things. It's just when people are like toxic about it that it kind of starts to get on people's nerves.
Yeah.
Like there are
Right.
a lot of the thing that makes this discussion difficult is that there are a lot of valid viewpoints in it, right? But
Well-
some people tag on to those viewpoints to like take it a step farther than is reasonable and to be like aggressive about it. You know, that's what makes the conversation difficult, I think.
Yeah, the entitlement is the issue.
Yeah. Because
People just,
go ahead.
people just like to hate. It's also
Yeah.
a big part of it, and like, kind of like SE kind of like didn't really do anything
Gave them
against.
power.
Yeah, exactly. They got like galvanized and like feel vindicated when they see like people getting banned and like teams getting disqualified and stuff, and I feel like that makes them right. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest things that like really irritated me during this. I love. By the way, the race went great. Everything I think on the side of things that we were doing here went great. I was happy with all teams doing what they do offline, teams that are not doing offline, that are streaming and everything else. Everybody, I think it went pretty well. But you do still have this like group of like people who come in and say, "Oh, these people should be disqualified." Disqualified from fucking what? Fighting the boss? Like, I have literally no control over what teams do. They're not winning anything anyways. So it's like, I'm just saying, this team is cleared at this time, right? And so it is really irritating that people try to like do everything they can to crush these teams that are not streaming for absolutely no reason. Because even if like it wasn't something that I tracked, there's other places this stuff gets tracked. It doesn't matter, right? There's lots of other places, and that information's out there. My whole goal is just to try to track everything that has no reason not to be considered legitimate in the world race scene. And it's kind of frustrating that people think the world race is anything more than teams just trying to fight it as fast as they can, get clears, and then see if possibly they were the first team to clear it. There is not an organized official thing. This has never been that. It's just been me tracking stuff on a spreadsheet, right, and turning it into a stream at some point. And I'm not going to disqualify people for playing the way they want to. It does. I mean, it makes the race even unique in a way. I don't. Whether it went every team streamed or like half the teams didn't stream, it wouldn't really change how exciting and interesting the race is to me, because it does add a whole nother aspect of mystery of what's going on, right, and what's happening behind the scenes and everything, and then having all that stuff come to light when the stream teams get there is just as as exciting to me. But yeah, that's my initial thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to
at
say
this
one more
point-
thing on the topic of streaming.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
so a lot of people compare WoW streams. These guys are winning and they're streaming, right? But like, I think we talk about the design philosophy of Final Fantasy versus like WoW. Final Fantasy is puzzles. You can't, if you stream what Final Fantasy mechanics are, you're giving away a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times when you're doing a mechanic of Final Fantasy, you want to pull it, you want to see it twice, so you can like compare patterns, find patterns between two pulls. But if like people are streaming, every group is streaming, you don't have that you don't have to do that anymore. You get the patterns from streams. You can just sit back and watch other people pull and be like, okay, now we have a pattern. Now we can figure it out ourselves. So like streaming puzzles is a lot more different than streaming just like execution stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, what
If
happens?
you like have your world race, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can finish.
I was gonna say, it's like imagine if it's a race to like the first person completing a portal map. Like you can't stream two people doing the same puzzle, because then one guy can just look at the other guy, and then maybe this guy has a stronger understanding of a later puzzle on that map, and he'll win now. But he wasn't really good at the start, so like streaming puzzles kind of sucks, I think, and it's just not very doable.
Well,
Basically, the first. Let me get this thought out real quick before I forget. The first tier where the entire group of top teams commit to streaming is going to be a gigantic shift in how prog is basically handles. And what's going to happen is you're no longer going to have necessarily the smartest team winning. You're going to have the team who's the most consistent team winning. It's going to be the teams who make the least amount of mistakes. That is the only thing that is going to differentiate a top tier team from a not top tier team, is who is most consistent. And that is a good metric, and it's a good skill set, and it's a completely fine thing to measure talent by. However, it will remove one piece of the talent right now, which is having a big brain. So that is one thing you sacrifice. However, for the people who just want to flex their consistency or their damage or something more kind of less cerebral, a streaming environment is going to favor them a lot. And the moment that it shifts, it probably won't shift back, and it'll be a big change for the game. I don't necessarily think that one is worse than the other, but it will be very different.
Right. I mean, we'll have to see. There has to be a lot of money that goes behind the scenes to make that kind of stuff happen, I think. I mean, comparing the Final Fantasy World Race to the WoW Race is very difficult as well, because they are absolutely different beasts in general.
Yeah, well, that's also the issue, right? Like, you're not gonna get that money before you stream. You have to show viewership and stuff for actually people to be like, okay, we'll give you money to stream this.
Here's my take on this whole issue. This has been a conversation that Frosty, I've been on your show for how many years now?
Oh god, how long have you been fucking racing? I don't know, dude.
Like 7 or 8.
A long time.
How many years has this conversation been brought up, Frosty?
Every single one.
we are still playing a what if game 7-8 years later.
Yeah.
I am so tired of this what if. I very much was on the pro streaming side this tier, as my team very much knows. And I'm not going to knock decisions that were made, because at the end of the day, I do think people should do what they're comfortable with. I think that this would have been the best period of any to finally test the waters, just to see how it goes, because Savage races come and go. We get 3 every expansion. It's not like there's not going to be another one. If this crashes and burns, whatever. Like, you drop it, for next time. But now we have to play another dreadful, grueling 10, 11, 12 months of what ifs. And I'm so tired of it.
What was it? Well, I think it's like the next one is also like a very good one to do it, I would think.
It is a
Like,
day
it's
one.
like
The first tier will be the best one.
It's right, it's the expansions, right? It's like
The first tier, the first tier is when you want it to go well. You want to test the waters before the actual really
No
good
one's going to go to sleep.
I disagree. Okay, like
disagree with that
imagine
too.
we did this now, and when it would
Yeah.
have gone bad, and this bad aftertaste that would have lasted in our months for a year until the next Savage. And
Yeah, if you do it
I
the
don't
next
know.
one, you have this ultimate like 3 months later,
Yeah.
most likely.
exactly.
I think it's
So
only
you're
a
like,
matter.
okay, what about the shit? Just do the ultimate and do it without streaming, because the other one is the Savage went to shit.
Hmm.
I think it's a matter of time. I think next expansion, it's gonna happen.
We'll
Oh boy,
see.
here we go.
Think so? Wait. Okay, this is something I mentioned to my team earlier today, but I have a proposition. Like, we'll stream Criterion when it comes out in 2 months, and if we see thousands of people watching us, and people are actually interested in watching us do Criterion, even it's half a day, right? It's not that long. Then I'm not gonna say the number, but there's a certain number. If you reach that many viewers, I promise you, we will stream the very first Savage. When the
One,
expansion
the thing
You're
is,
putting the
it's,
views a bit high for a Criterion dungeon, I'm not gonna lie.
show us there's interest. It doesn't matter. Just show us the
Yeah,
interest. Like,
some
is
interest,
there
sure,
actually
but
interest?
there will be one stream from your team that will hit high numbers.
Then that's fine.
that's
Yeah.
enough. That's enough.
I promise right now, if we hit high numbers on any one stream, we will stream the next Savage.
I guarantee you, no
Regardless
matter
of what any
what,
other team is doing.
no matter what, you guys would hit high numbers if you say put Netherland in the title and you're ahead on the mechanics. You would hit high numbers. You like this tier, you would have hit probably around 10k, without a doubt. I don't know if that's considered high to you or not.
If we get 10k on Criterion, then I will stream.
You'll get 2
next
to
Savage.
3k,
I'll make
2
sure.
to 3k maybe.
Yeah, you get like maybe above 1k, so I'm guessing.
Yeah, because the thing is that it's one of those races where it's cleared a lot of times before people wake up. So it's hard. We don't know
There's
what
also
it's
Blue
going to
Mage after that, so Criterion.
It's at the same time,
Blue
isn't
Mage
it?
World first. Yeah, it's the same time. So we'll do Criterion, then we'll World first Blue Mage.
Okay.
So
Maybe that's what I should make the race event be.
Blue Mage.
Like, I should.
Criterion and Blue Mage.
collect all the spells. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yes, you know, spell collecting.
Eden raid.
Uh,
Do the Eden raid.
yeah, that's true. That's true. First blue group to beat the Eden Raid or whatever it is. I don't know. All right. So, in general, I think the way that you guys handle it with the VODs was pretty good, and I think that I do honestly think that does ease the tensions a lot. The people who are going to be like assholes about
It's
it
for
are gonna
sure
be
the
assholes.
best middle ground. It's the best middle ground.
Yeah.
It is. So I was actually been thinking about this like whole week. I've been thinking about how having a whole 30 hours of VOD from the first place team is gonna do for like, a lot of other progging teams. That's a lot of stuff they can look at and like develop new strats on. Like, I actually think just because there's an entire VOD of the world first team out there on the entire prog, I actually think teams are going to be better next year because of it. Like, I actually think it's a big deal.
Possible.
If they spend time to look at it.
Yeah, like I'm not talking about like most people. Like 99.9% of people don't give a shit, right? Like I'm talking about just like people who are actually like racing,
Yeah, the more like the streamer team or something.
It's
that are,
gonna
like,
level up the
rocking
like
to
the
ground.
people like outside that initial echelon, like that 4th through 7th area. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna level those teams up.
For sure. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I actually think there are going to be some teams that just having that out there will help immensely. Like, not a lot probably, but there will be some, I think.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about the timing of the video release, and what your thoughts are about releasing the VODs.
Zep is toxic. That's all.
What? How's
Oh,
it
okay.
toxic? What is even like the issue? I don't get it.
We
He's
released
like,
it before they cleared.
I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna
Oh,
post
did
it
he?
because I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
Oh, I already went to
Oh.
bed. I didn't know you guys did it before you guys cleared.
So wait, so
I
when we
think-
cleared, I was ready to post everything immediately. I didn't
Yeah,
really wait for
Suki
anybody.
always was supposed immediately.
Suki, we
I just
always
wanna
have
post
to
it
like
early.
Always.
we always have to like wrap a leash on Suki and like hold him back every single
No,
time.
no.
They
I
said
was ready to drop it.
0.4, close enough. Send it.
Yeah, basically. You've seen the fight. Here you go.
Well, to
It
be
wasn't
fair, I
just
think
Zep. It really
when-
wasn't just Zep. So I DM'd Kana. This happened DSR too, but like Kana was like, don't release the streams until we clear at least. No.
Mhm.
And then it got really late that night, and we're just like, no, are they gonna clear? And then we all saw like 0.4% wipe. Wow, this is good enough. Let's send it. Fuck it. We're tired. We want to go to sleep. We're
And
sending
then
it.
now, now waiting.
Yeah,
Oh,
not
man.
waiting.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, look, on the topic of releasing a video, I mean, I would have maybe liked it a little bit later, just because, like, elephant in the room. I'm just gonna say reality. I mean, that video bolstered a lot of teams' ability to
Carried
clear the fight
everyone.
more
Absolutely,
quickly
yeah.
than it probably should have. I
Yeah.
mean, is like we talked earlier about, like, yeah, rescue strats are very, kind of typically innovative, and maybe not necessarily the first thing you think of, yet look at how many people are rescuing right now.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, though, the onus is not on Neverland. It's on the other teams to suck less and kill the boss faster.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
If a stream team complains about not being first because they slept wrong, that's their fault.
Yeah, like we have no stand like box to stand on, because at the end of the day, play better and it's a non-issue.
Fair. I mean, that
Were
that's
stream teams
fair.
mad at our timing? Did anyone like?
No,
I
I
haven't
think they were
talked to
all
anyone,
excited. I think they were all excited.
Well,
They
I
were
feel
like,
like
"Get
the
out of
teams
this."
were still getting this team that could still get first were a little bit annoyed at it.
Well, the one that did get first, Tim
They woke up at like
DN,
the perfect time. Yeah, they woke up at the perfect time for it.
they mentioned like they had a rough concept of like when the VOD could be released, right? And so they went to sleep with that in consideration. And so
That's a real five hit.
yeah, so they
Oh shit!
they
that actually
literally
true?
yeah they said, hey, this is kind of like the thought of when it's going to be released. They're not going to release it immediately, but maybe by the time we would wake up it'd be released and we can start working on it, right? And so it timed out really well for them, and so they took advantage of it. So yeah,
Right.
100%.
I feel kind of bad at the take away from the stream race thing, but
I mean-
at the same time, it's like, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, that is an element that exists out there, and I have to take this into consideration, I guess, thinking in the future. But it's not a controllable thing. It's not something I can
Yeah, it's
control,
not.
right? And so it's going to be part of the race in some way or another. What is the thought process of like Neverland having two groups, one streaming, one not streaming, right? And then the first team clears it, and then the second team just takes all the strats that have not been made public and use that to clear it on stream. And so it's just something that I have to think about going forward in the future and how all that stuff will work.
Next time, clear the secret and just start streaming and clear on the alt.
Hey, good idea, Frosty. Hey, let's do
Anyone
that.
else clears?
Yeah, no. So I have to be like super careful because and that's how I think about this stuff. I try to make things as fair as possible and then look at the loopholes and issues that could exist. It didn't happen this time, but it's a possibility of something that could happen in the future. And so I don't think that a lot of people here would do that kind of stuff. But the big thing about streaming your entire prog means that you have to be showing evidence of there being some prog there, right? And it has to be literally 2 different groups. It can't be like the same people just logging into alts and doing it. So since you're streaming the entire prog, it would have to be 8 different people, likely, unless if you guys suddenly, like, the streaming team starts acting different, speaking differently at the very end. Go ahead.
What you do is you make 2 teams. You make one team that's really smart and one team that's really consistent, and they both stream. And the team that's really smart figures out all the mechanics, so the consistent team can clear.
Yeah.
There's also the thing, like, what's stopping us from DMing, like, Team DM all those solutions? And then they get world first. They did the world streaming first, and then they pass us all to rewards.
That would be horrible.
We split the reward.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
Maybe
the controller in half.
But then
maybe
again,
this is
like,
a conversation you shouldn't have started, Frosty. I think it might be giving people some ideas.
no, it's something. There is 10 months. There is no effing way this wouldn't have happened. I'm not that smart, right? I'm not that clever.
If you think this hasn't been a conversation in previous years, you're crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure that this kind of stuff would exist now that the rewards are coming for online and everything else.
People want to see certain teams lose. People want to see certain teams win.
But then again,
you have a VOD, you could have hit it. Oh, you streamed, you could have cheated still. That's what they're gonna say next. Now the streamers are cheaters too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that there is some way of it still being a legitimate thing to do with having 16 people in a team, right? And then you have 8 people being really good at figuring out all these other mechanics, and then 8 people who are streaming their prog over. Maybe the streaming team is the one that gets ahead. I don't know. And so it's just something I've been pondering on. And I guess I'll have to figure it out in the next year or so. What that would actually look like, or if it could actually be an issue, or if I'm just making stuff up that is a non-issue in the end, and it just seems like it would be. But yeah, you guys ponder on that too, and let me know what you come up with.
Ready for the AG3 Neverland cooperation?
Yeah, maybe.
That's gonna happen in 6.5 when they release 24-man Savage.
Holy copium!
Copium is
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He's coping so hard. I can smell it.
Yeah.
There's no way they're releasing anything outside these Criterion dungeons. That's
Take
it.
your Criterion, take your one materia, and you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
One material.
Yeah. All right. So, other things in regard to the race. I mean, that was pretty much the main points for the race that I was thinking about. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to kind of go over that's been on your mind over the last week or two about the World Race or the fights or anything else?
I miss Unnamed. That's all.
Yeah, I do want to shout out Unnamed. They were the team to beat this tier, and unfortunately, the community ran them out of town.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
the competition decreased.
Yeah, I hope the GP teams get stronger again in the next expansion.
And I just hope other teams get strong, because right now, what is it, like our group, and then Ether Group 3 on our asses sometimes, Grind.
I mean,
too.
it's kind of been the thing always, no? When like 14, like it's always like 2-horse race, maybe 3.
So I'm gonna spit a little bit of fire here, but I don't think that anybody can argue against it. I think Neverland played well this tier, obviously. I think this tier was a showcasing of less that Neverland played well and more that everyone else played like shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
I don't know if I agree with any of it, but
well, again, let me defend.
Okay.
This, by the way, this is not to say Neverland is shit. That's not the point of this. What I'm saying, they played well. But my point is, I think there are a lot of people who played below expectations for themselves, and it's one of the reasons that it's kind of devolved into kind of a one-horse race at the end. I think a team like Unnamed showed that there was a gap in top. I feel like Neverland probably did a bit of work between now and then to bridge that gap a little bit, and I think the other teams still needed to improve more. And
It's funny you say that because we did not raid. We waited for 4 weeks after top and stopped raiding completely. I haven't touched the game until the week before the Savage came out.
Well, what else does it say as well? For top, I think our team was probably at its weakest it's been, just in terms of player skill in general,
Yeah,
and
we
also
had-
the role swapping.
Like in top, we lost a pretty strong member. Literally 3 weeks before it came out, we had to pick up someone at the last second. Like Swag,
Role swap
good
people.
player. Like I would definitely recommend him, but like he wasn't exactly the strongest player. That like our previous team before, like
he's new to
was-
the game. Yeah,
he was also Swag is also newer to the game. He doesn't have that like long-term Final Fantasy experience. So our team definitely got crippled at the knees before top came out, and I think we got much stronger with the new pickup in Ellie between then and now. But like one thing about Final Fantasy is like I don't think there's any getting better by playing the game between patches. There's a game where like I think you just have a certain level of skill, and you can just apply that next patch without having to play the game again. There's no prep. I think prog prep doesn't exist in my book.
I also I also want to say like we would have beaten Unnamed if that wasn't the case, right? I still think Unnamed could have probably beaten us, even if the group was.
It would have been really close.
Yeah, it would have been close.
I'm not saying we would have beat Unnamed.
We were ahead of Unnamed for quite a while, and then got stuck at some points.
I think Zep
are
has
you
like the
talking about
timing, but
top?
we were ahead of like everyone,
Yeah.
like the whole fight until like P5, where we definitely fell backwards with like Sigma and Omega, but like
Even blue
it
screen
would have.
lost a lot of time.
Yeah, I think we were the first team with blue screen as well.
But that's not like a surprising fact, because the like top's real prog starts at P5, and there is just the way that they approach P5 and P6 was just better than everyone.
The
The
way that I
pull
feel,
more and let the ninth man figure out was definitely a strategy that's really powerful in the ultimate, because just how much consistency you need to get like back to those prog points.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
I agree with all that. The way I
But
feel,
I don't think people played bad and we played well. I think this tier everyone played as expected, I would say.
I think,
go ahead.
I think AJ3 could have played a bit better for their standards, but yeah.
the thing about
good
Omega was that, at least the way
AJ3.
that I feel about it, was that our group did not, play as well as they should have. We underperformed in some places, and Unnamed didn't. And then there was the whole issue. There was the whole like Zoom hack plugin issue, right? But that's. I'm not gonna say anyone's opinions on that are incorrect or anything, right? Like it's a big discussion. But one thing that I think I speak for everyone here in our teams for is that we all know deep down that if they were playing completely vanilla, they still would have won.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and I don't think anyone would ever disagree with that. So
We're talking about Unnamed.
yeah, Unnamed.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
top.
I think that they still would have been competitive. Yeah, it's impossible to say whether they would have won or not. I do acknowledge that Tool's existence helped them in some capacity, but I'm on your side with that. Like discrediting them because of the Tools is nonsensical. Because they still would have been competitive if not favored.
Right.
At least Neverland. I know we talked about this a lot, obviously, but I think all eight of us at the time felt that they absolutely still would have won with nothing, and that's why
It would
we
have been a much
didn't.
closer race though.
It would have been closer, obviously, but we think that they still would have won, and that's why none of us wanted to, like go, oh, real world first, yada yada, right? Because we knew deep down that didn't really feel true.
No, Unnamed
Right.
was a extremely strong team and really good. And it is really unfortunate what happened to them overall. Because in the end, I add-ons, you could make the discussion. I don't know every single bit of everything that everyone uses everywhere. I don't have visibility into that kind of stuff. I know visibility like that stuff helps, but I don't think that is enough to make it to where that makes or breaks them doing it. They're just really, really good players. And I've
We
talked
have
to
heard
them,
of
yeah.
some of the specifics that they like used for progging mechanics. Like we've heard some of the very specific things that they use to solve mechanics, like spreadsheets and stuff, and like and we just know that their strategies were just insane. Their strategies were so much better than everyone else's. It was insane how well organized they were. It was crazy.
The whole thing of the ninth man sending a diagram or strat through a link shell and stuff while they were doing the mechanic was was really funny.
That's pretty intelligent. I would
To
say
finish my
Go
yeah,
ahead, go ahead.
Okay, sure. To finish my thought from earlier, just about like there being a bit of a gap between Neverland and the other teams this tier. This is like it's something that competition mode really like puts light on. Because when it comes to a Savage race, the team that's going to win is likely the team that's getting the most consistent back-to-back prog pulls. And if you look at a lot of the teams, if not the majority, and compare them to, say, like Neverland, who obviously won, Neverland just had more frequent back-to-back good pulls. One of the reasons that like Mental Stillness farmed the fuck out of P11 as hard as they did is if you just look at the graph, it's always trending downward. Like they were seeing mechanic, farming it once, moving on to next mechanic, and that's just how you progress fast through Savage. Like it's obvious, but when you compare the actual pacing of people making prog pulls, there was really only one group that probably did it to world first standards this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same thing with DSR right back in then. It was like saying like, oh, we played really well, but like every other team played really bad. It's like, well, that kind of, it's like I feel like that always is like a thing, you know? Like the other teams have to sometimes perform worse for the other team to shine better. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I guess the point of bringing it up is I think that people should just be. I mean, I don't need to say this to any of the top teams, but anybody maybe outside the top teams, just put a strong emphasis on consistently reaching prog points in back-to-back scenarios, and even back-to-back-to-back if you're good enough, because that is the fastest way to prog.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's not even that. Like, so after our prog was over, and I went back and checked like how we solved mechanics for like P9, the very first limit cut, and I was looking at Team DN because like I guess they won for first stream, so I was like comparing it, and it's like you can actually see the timing differences within like 10 minutes. We had a working strat. Within like 15 minutes, we had a working strat for the limit cut, while they're pulling for 30, 40 minutes, and they still don't know what they're doing for the limit cut. Like that's an easy mechanic too. So that there's like this huge gap, not on just on consistency, just on solving mechanics too, right? Like you can like
Yeah, but that's all part of the equation. Like everything that goes into having back-to-back prog pulls. Like if that means taking a minute and making sure that your strat is solidified and good, then that's what you need to do.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to see that live. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a lot of factors that go into
even
it,
live. Like,
yeah,
if we stream live, we would solve that limit cut in P9S 15
Mhm.
minutes. Then every stream would just copy what we did, right? Like
yeah.
they wouldn't have that 30 minutes, 40 minutes of extra wiping trying to figure out how to do that, because now they have the solution at the same exact time as us. It's like
Right.
this is where like streaming also just like kind of takes away a lot of the skill that Final Fantasy requires in prog.
Well, you get the thing with like what we saw, right, with releasing the VOD. Like we released the VOD, and suddenly like what was like 10 groups instantly clear like within the next day, or like in the next couple hours, there was like 3-4 clears.
Yeah. Oh. All right.
And unless Final Fantasy changes their design philosophy, I
Mhm.
think streaming will always be a bad idea if you want to go for world first.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Yeah.
everyone does it, but then you will definitely have a
You
team
don't
that
know
doesn't
if
do it.
everyone does it. Yeah, like what if a just random like
But
other
then do
team
you
doesn't stream?
care about that team winning? Is the next question.
Of course you do. Like they're gonna be the world first team then. Like
Do you care
I'm
if you
streaming
get
and all
money and
stream,
stuff for it?
yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'm going for world
I
first. Of
mean,
course
we
I
have the same
care.
question right now. Like, so there's still like
Skylar,
there's
you're
still the
starting to
people
sound
that-
like Reddit.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm
Like
just
he's,
saying,
You sound like
I'm
Reddit,
just
yeah.
saying,
Like
like,
what you're saying is like what a lot of people are saying. Like,
of course you care, but like, do you care as much as you would do without anything?
So
okay,
No.
like you're like someone who says the N is the true world first because we're the first stream group. Like,
No,
my,
no. That's not what I'm saying.
my question
Kind
to you
of.
guys right now,
Oh.
if we're still harping on this, and I feel bad for doing it, but if you guys streamed would you have lost a world race overall?
This
This
tier,
tier,
I
no, I don't think so.
possibly, because we did get walled in the ads phase on Door Boss. If like our Ether Group 3 said that they actually figured that out pretty fast. If we streamed it, they did not. I think right then and there is when they would just take the lead from us and possibly
Counterpoint,
win.
a group like AG. Sorry to finish your thought. Sorry.
So yeah, I was done. So just because of that wall, we hit a wall, and if we're streaming and they don't hit that same wall, they're gonna pull ahead right there. Even if they were they could be stealing all our strats before that, and then
Right.
the second we hit a wall, they get through it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but then they fucked up
and then you go to-
the
and then you go to
shapes.
bed, and then you wake up and you
And
steal all that footage from
gamble, right?
too.
It's a gamble. Like
Like
Yeah.
if
Who's
you're
gonna get
streaming,
walled then?
if you're streaming, it's likely a scenario where AG3 is streaming as well. AG3 solves limit cut fast. You have solved limit cut faster. I mean, it's a give and take.
No,
Yeah.
the premise here is that the danger of streaming is not other people who are also streaming. It's one
people
group
are
that
not
isn't.
streaming. Yeah, what if there's
Right.
some stream we don't know about,
Sure,
team that
sure.
we don't know about isn't
But
streaming, and now they're the ones who win because we stream.
We know what teams are not streaming though right now. I mean, a magical one could be produced somewhere else, but does that? I guess it does matter, right? You know,
To
in a
me, it
sense,
matters to a lot of us. Way
Yeah, that's
worse.
what I'm saying. Like, if it matters to you, then sure. But I feel like it shouldn't matter to people. I don't know.
It absolutely does matter if
It
like the
does,
goal
yeah.
is first, not stream first, right? So if a random unstreaming team wins, then we don't win. It's over.
Mm-hmm. But what did you lose?
World first.
It's
and
just
that's
it's just
like
a it's just a conversation where there's a lot of room for your opinion.
It's very personal. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you care
Yeah,
more
everyone
about
has their own
winning
personal-
world first, then yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, so. Anyways, that's a whole. We could probably do like 10 hours of that conversation.
It's a
for
big
sure.
conversation.
It's a
Yeah.
pretty big one. And it's
next expansion.
I think the days of streaming are soon.
maybe the
I
next
don't
race.
think so
dude.
yet.
I
See
may,
you there.
That's
Dude.
what they say every tier.
Dude.
I've heard that one before.
the
Heard that
first.
at the top.
I do think that you guys are completely right that a good time to do it is the first tier of an expansion. Because the strat stealing stuff, I don't think groups are going to be able to adjust fast enough to other people's strategies to be able to catch up with them. I think that you're going to be able to figure out these strats. It's going to be cleared, like, again, in 13, 14 hours, right? That it's not going to matter. The biggest issue that you'd run into is, like, the day 2. But if you don't have a day 2, then it might not even matter at all. But that's just, again, my thoughts as an outsider, not actually doing the race, just watching it, right?
It's also, you would need a whole team in the back watching everyone else's streams, drawing the diagram that they made, figuring out their strats, how they actually made it. Like a normal stream, like a thing like the end doesn't have like the manpower for that, for example, right? Like EG3 probably does, but you need that as well. To like have a team that just like was watching all the streams and like figuring out their mechanics and how
But
they
then-
did it, and then giving it to your team.
But
That's
then we're
streaming
getting into guilds. Full guilds like WoW, basically, right?
Yeah,
Big giant
a
things.
streaming environment does favor like having a larger group behind you.
Yeah.
There's no denying that.
Yeah. All right.
You're gonna sit there with 8 people watching other streams and not pulling the boss.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that you guys want to jump into World Race? This has been a really good conversation, by the way. It's stuff that I want to talk
Alright.
about too.
I'm actually very passionate about the streaming stuff, so
No, yeah.
Those are some big topics that people have been avoiding. I think talking about like the top stuff too is good to get that out there. I think.
Yeah. It's
I think
important.
just, like
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
closure to any streaming conversation just needs to be to remind listeners like any decisions to stream or not stream have literally nothing to do with them. It's the entitlement that turns actually teams off more than on. Yeah, it's always going to be based on what the team wants to do. They don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah. I mean,
It's not a decision based on validation. Like nobody cares about other people's validation. It's all about how they personally feel about it.
and I will say there is like, unfortunate situation where you're like, for example, the World Race stream that we put on, when people are watching that, they're watching because they want to watch people prog, and so they're going to be extremely biased against teams that are not showing them their progress, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it's not like the general consensus of the entire raid community is there. There's a good amount there, but a lot of people who don't raid that just want to see people raid are also there, and they're going to have a heavy bias when they and a lot of ignorance into the world race scene as well.
Of course, because most people are going to want to watch it, right? So they're going to want people to stream because they want to watch it, and they may or may not subconsciously insert other reasons into that bias as well. But they're always going to be biased towards streaming because that's what benefits everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Boy, one more thing I want to mention. Square Enix did, after the top thing, Square Enix did mention something about possibly hosting something like this themselves.
It's not happening.
So
It's not
maybe,
happening.
who knows? Maybe they can actually
Nah.
invite teams to play live at like in Tokyo or something. I don't know where the headquarters are, but
How would
you
they
know,
know
like-
which teams to
No,
invite?
if
Dude,
anything, they
that
would
is
not
some
invite teams. They would
mega
just,
cooking.
they would
that's the
just
question.
watch
How do
the
they know which
streams.
teams to invite? You're actually not
No, they
wrong
would
about
just
that.
they would just watch the team's streams. They wouldn't invite teams.
No, I mean, you can't really cheat if you're playing live on stage with like
Yeah.
Even WoW doesn't do that. Come on.
That's a dream, right? That's a dream. Let me dream, right?
So
Maybe in 10 years.
what
They all.
this is so I'm gonna just imagine, right? What they could do if they were gonna do something official. It was not gonna be flying teams out. It's not gonna be doing any of that stuff. It would probably be hiring GM staff and keeping an official tracking on their side, and then having GMs monitor teams that are ahead. And then they would officially declare these teams cleared first, and everything looked legitimate from what we could see while monitoring the top teams started first along with prog. That would be the closest thing I can see them doing. I don't think they're going to go for... Again, I don't know. I would love it. You know what? It'd be my dream.
It
And
is
then
my
be like,
dream.
hey,
It might
Frosty.
fall out, yeah.
Hey, Frosty, you want to come help us with World Race stuff over here at Square Enix? Yeah, let's do it. I'd be right on top of it. But it is such a... I don't know how much sense it makes for them to dive that deep into it.
Well, also, like, thinking about it, it's like really pretty bad promotion for the game. I feel like when you have gamers sitting there for 22 hours straight playing your game, like, you wouldn't want that as a company, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, and that's the
I
other
don't
part,
agree.
right? Do they mandate 8 hours of break?
No, I mean Diablo
Yeah,
4. I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
they wouldn't want
Blizzard
that.
is loving that people are playing Diablo 4 24 hours right now, right?
Yeah, but they wouldn't,
I
yeah, but
bet
they
Blizzard loves
wouldn't
that.
want to have fucking players sitting on a stage for 22 hours playing their game and, like, looking miserable and stuff like that.
Bro,
I
I don't
don't
want
know
to.
about
I don't want to smell you guys, man. Like I get stinky during prog, dude.
We can't put ourselves in glass
Yeah,
boxes.
I need my pillow.
Yeah, I don't... I mean, there is that whole point to
Don't put me in
take.
the jar.
Is like teams going really hardcore and serious and it being an unhealthy situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is a risk and a concern for them. So I don't know. There's just a lot of liability and issues that would go into it. I think the best thing they could really do is have some way of official tracking and hiring staff to monitor teams, and that would probably be more than enough. And then I don't have to worry about trying to track Twitter, DMing people on Discord, looking at other websites, doing all this other stuff, and just begging Cleese or one of you guys to tell me when you go to sleep so I can go to sleep, this kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Well, I told you to go to sleep at the end of day one because the boss wasn't going to die in Twitch chat, but I don't know if you saw that.
I might have not seen it.
So
But
you're awake all night, Skylar? You just left us?
No. This was before I went to bed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no,
Before
this was after I woke up when you guys were sleeping. So like
Yeah.
7 and 8 a.m.
Wait, you woke up and you went to bed then?
Something like that. Because I had to
You
wake
went
up.
to bed at like 7 a.m. your time, I think?
Yeah, I woke up at 8 a.m. because I had to.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to hit on before we wrap up the stream? Again, I think this has been an amazing talk, and I appreciate you guys giving me your time today.
I'm happy that we ended the streaming conversation at the same place it's been ended for 6 years.
Who knows?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Ara believes we're gonna stream next tier,
Yeah,
so
Yeah, I guess we're a little further along. The finish line got moved a little bit closer, sure.
It's gonna be a change. You're gonna see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be an
I was
RS
right.
team next year. I'm 100% on that. RS streaming, I'm in that team. I don't care.
Okay. I would recommend. I don't know what my side of this race is going to look like that year. I just know that we have a full year of very good events on streaming, and I'm hoping to use that to try to promote the streaming stuff more too. So maybe it's even better for people who are doing it. But at the same time, I don't know what that's going to look like in the future because that is a year away. But it has grown. I'm really happy with the work we've been able to do over the last this expansion. Hey, I hope it helps everybody in the end. That's all I'm hoping. All right. With that being said, I guess we can go ahead and wrap up the show. I have something I'm about 40 minutes late for. But I wanted to have this conversation.
Watch Spider-Verse, yeah.
I have a question for you, Ross. Have you ever ended MogTalk on time?
Yeah.
What is the time?
sort
What's your
of.
time limit normally? 2
2
hours?
hours.
I
There you
aim
go.
for 2 hours is the goal usually because that's the most
went over that.
digestible. Yeah. I used to not have one, and I would have some shows hit 6 hours. And I'm like, man, I don't know if we need to do this again. I think that
Is
was.
anyone gonna watch that?
I don't even know if anyone. Some people do, man.
Watch the VOD 6 hours.
Yeah. But okay, well then let's do the rounds here real quick. And I guess we'll go with Aether Group 3 first. Any last words you want to say? Shout outs, anything? If any of you guys want to be found anywhere or not found anywhere, whatever. I guess you guys can go through whatever order you want to.
I mean, I'll start. Just want to shout out all of the team at AG3. I mean, I don't deserve to be here at all. I haven't played the game in 2 months. There are people who did a lot more than me behind the scenes, and they should get their spotlight. So shout out to them. Yeah, I just hope that the group continues what they're doing going into next tier, because I mean, I highlighted this earlier. I feel like they had standards for themselves that they probably don't feel like they met, but this is a very talented group. One of the more they're like a group of Neanderthals, which is kind of funny, but very, very talented group of players, and I'm just hoping that they don't overreact to like the gap in clear times here, and just address how to improve between now and then.
Okay. All right, Chayo.
Yeah, like shout out to all the ninth. All the ninths are like, once again, they really are just like amazing and did us a real solid this tier. That's really it. It's a good tier. Hope to see you guys again sometime. And yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much got to say the same thing. Shoutouts to all of the players that have been with us the entire expansion too. Yeah, it's been a good ride, good expansion. It's been fun, and I hope the future will be even better.
Okay. All right, Neverland. Nar, you want to start?
Sure. Usually I just shitpost because I feel cringe when I advertise anything, but I might start streaming again, I guess. So
Whoa.
my Twitch is Narrlocke.
Hold on, I got a feature for that. Is it spelled exactly the same? Yeah.
Yeah, everything I have is spelled exactly the same. That's why I picked it.
There you go.
Are you streaming up over prog footage? Were you actually doing that? I saw you tweeted about it.
The only thing is that I'm not really that. I don't know yet. I'm not really that good at just like going from start to end without like input, like questions. You know what I mean? Like I'm a type of guy that answers questions, not just like starts a conversation on my own. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe.
It's weird. Get used to it though.
Yeah. I need to practice. It's practice, man. It's a skill. It's a
Got to
skill.
practice for the next tier, right?
Yeah.
All right. Rumi?
I just want to say a huge shout out to the whole team in general as well, because taking me in before DSR, like a few days before DSR started, having like no expectation of what ninth manning was like, and just having me around the whole time for the whole expansion was nice. And also shout out to the rest of the ninth man team. They helped me quite a lot ever since DSR, when I was like pretty much me and Aya alone. And adding another few people to it helped a lot over the last couple of tiers.
Okay. Suki?
All right. Thank you for supporting us. Rooting for us. But I do want to do like a pretty big shout out to Rumi. my co-healer, the Scholar.
Okay.
I think he might actually be the best shield healer in the game. Literally, he hard carries so much stuff. Like, I really do want to show him some respect. Like literally, probably the best shield healer in the game. I actually think.
Okay.
And yeah, shout out to the rest of the team too. Like, actually such a good team to be a part of. Very fun to play. Prog is very fun with this team. And just to be a little, villainous towards the end, like the rest of the world get gapped. All right, where's the competition? Bring us some competition next time at least.
Okay.
And,
Jesus Christ.
Go ahead.
yeah, Skylar, you said you were not going to be with us this time around, but you stuck around, so thank you.
I have my reasons, but yeah.
Yeah, and also Snap. Like, I guess not a lot of people know Snap, but this guy is like absolutely a fucking god at Samurai. This guy, like, we never have issues with damage because Snap is on our team. Absolute monster. He always has these like brilliant ideas too. Sometimes randomly, just gives us great ideas just out of nowhere. Just like, here, do this. Like, oh shit, he's right. Let's do it. Yeah, we have this team has some really, really powerful players, and yeah, I'm hoping everyone sticks around. No one wants to quit the game for next expansion. Hopefully, everyone sticks around, has fun. Looking forward to.
I do want to say, like, every time that a healer shouts out their co-healer about being really good and carrying, it's like, well, what are they carrying, right? And then you have to think that healer that shouted them out, do they feel like they're not doing anything for their group?
No, I think I'm a god healer too. I'm just being humble, okay? I didn't want to talk about myself.
I'm a god healer too.
I actually think after this tier, like, I'm not gonna say it. I don't want to brag too much, okay? But yeah, I think Rumi is so much better though. Like,
okay.
Rumi is actually he's one of the best players I've ever seen, and I'm so glad I get to heal with him. Like,
this is why we
honestly.
need other teams to win, so his ego doesn't go too big.
Yeah, exactly. Shut down my ego, guys. All right.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Also, yeah. Snap is not just good at Samurai. Snap. Put him on a melee. Put him on a range. Probably put him on anything. This guy will carry that damage. All right. Like,
Okay.
Snap is just that good. Like, I don't know what we do. Like, we probably would much more in rages if it wasn't for Snap on our team.
I mean,
And
like,
always gear feed Snap, right? That's the #1 rule. And also, it's like, in Snap we trust is what I like to say when it comes to damage checks.
well, Snap was which player again? What did he play?
He's the Samurai for us. He's
you guys. He's the one that you like threw all the gear on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we feed him every single time. Yeah, he trusts. But no, I'm not done. Okay, wait. MT2.
Okay.
MT. I picked him up after DSR. We stole MT from TPS after DSR, and I play with MT for a long time now. And this guy is a genius too. Like, brilliant player.
Mm-hmm.
Just he knows stuff ASAP. And Zep too. Zep put a lot of us together. It's because we all know Zep. Zep really brings everyone back together, right? He's like the kind of the center. He keeps everyone together. So yeah, like, everyone on this team does amazing, and so it's a really, really good experience on this team.
Yeah, you better not forget anyone now. You better go through the whole list.
Okay,
What about that?
fine. Nar is like,
No.
great player. He adjusted on this fight, and I kicked him off healer. I'm sorry for that, but I'm sure you enjoy it because
Bro,
I'm sure he enjoys tanking much more.
I
Right?
didn't want to be there either.
Yeah, I could tell the healing was stressing him out a lot after DSR and P8S, and like, he needs more like communication. And Rumi, unfortunately, is more silent. He's a god healer, Rumi, but he doesn't talk that much. And Nars feels like he has all this responsibility, and I feel like Nars is getting a lot of stress healing. So okay, I'm like, okay, let's I should have made him swap after DSR, but I'm like, I didn't want to heal. I was like, I'm having a good time on caster. I just want to play Black Mage for fun, even though I suck at it. But then after P8S, I'm like, okay, I do want to swap out. And hard to cast from me healer. And then what I miss? Elevation for coming in now. Elevation came in for this team. That does
And
bring in a
also
lot of
Elevation, who was here. And the good one, Suki. Thanks.
Yeah.
Very glowing.
Did I miss anyone? Death. Oh, this guy is
No.
like, so funny. He's really funny. He's always, he definitely knows how to bring the mood up sometimes. And kind of washed up though. But Death is actually really good. He's also really good.
Okay.
You got
This is-
everything.
This is the most emotion I've ever heard from you. I think, ever.
This is the nicest thing you said
This
in a
is the
long
nicest
time.
thing Suki's ever said to any of us.
That's really funny
Listen, I
because
hated you guys for since DSR because we lost. Now we won. I'm joking. These guys are amazing.
yeah,
DSR.
who would thought a banana
I'm
in a
so glad
hat
we
would
came
have all that
together. Yeah.
emotion, right?
I guess it is the last time for probably a while we have most of us on, so since there's nothing coming up, maybe Criterion, but
Criterion, you guys are gonna have to battle each other. So, internal team
No,
bonding,
we
fighting.
we like share stress between the groups and like
Yeah.
yeah.
We work together. We'll split
It's
up in 4 or
cooperative.
randomly assigned. Probably split up randomly.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be sad I can't heal with Rumi. It's like the worst part of Criterion. I might actually swap to casters so I can be Rami's team. So who knows? Make someone else go healer. We'll
Alright.
see.
Before it turns into like a 4-hour show for Suki.
Yeah, sorry,
Here,
sorry.
well, no, I appreciate again, like you guys. Thank you for coming on. I know it was a little bit last minute after coming from the exhaustion of the world race and everything. Had to throw things together a little bit, but I do appreciate both groups coming on to just give the experience and talk about some of these topics that have been extremely just lingering within the world race scene. And just going over the fight in general. It's good that we had a tier that most people enjoyed going through. But, I'm excited to see what it looks like in the future, whether it's streaming or not streaming, whatever. I'm going to keep doing it, and I think that a lot of the right decisions were made. I'm happy with how everything turned out in the end, and just promise me there's no weird drama or anything that's going to come out within the next couple of weeks, and I appreciate it. Promise me, guys.
This is Final Fantasy, man. You know what happens during downtime.
what do you mean? Everyone's not even playing the game in 4 weeks in these teams.
No, we gotta play for 8 weeks for this. We gotta get that this.
I guess.
And then we'll stop.
Someone's gonna clear the tier with no healer, and there's gonna be a YouTube video.
Yeah. All right. Well, with all that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you, everybody who came to watch today. Thank you, everybody watching us on YouTube and everything else. Again, world race wise, Criterion Dungeon, we'll probably try to throw something together for it. I just don't know what that's going to look like exactly. Now that we do know what the format looks like, but it's still a very short race, so it's very hard to figure out how to make that logically work out, I guess. But I'll do it. And besides that, we'll have another show probably next weekend. There's some more hopefully exciting news coming out that I can't talk about just yet over the next week or two. And then there's also just the regular streams where I'll be doing this in Party Finder for the next week. So actually, you know what? I'm going to be doing this in Party Finder for a year. This is my content for a year. Is Savage in Party Finder. Jeez.
Streaming life.
Yeah. It's fucking better than what I was doing before, dude. Alright. Let's find somebody to raid here. I'll do that in a second. But before we go out, guys, please hang tight while we find someone to host. And everybody on the call, even though they can't see you, I expect you to be waving and saying bye all at the same time. You ready?
I'm not waving.